What is up? It is November 2023, and I am here with none other than Gary McKinnon. In case you don't know who Gary is, he's the guy who, let me get this straight, you hacked into NASA and the DOD looking for evidence of free energy and anti-gravity technology?
Yeah, free energy, UFOs, and perhaps naively 9/11 as well.
So you got interested in this again watching Disclosure Project back in 2001 with Stephen Greer.
Well, I had an interest as a kid, but yeah, Disclosure Project was a treasure trove of information, basically, names, locations, etc.
Right. So let's dive into how you did this, what happened to you when you did this, and what's going on with NASA now with their live satellite feeds, which when you try to click on them, you notice that they're all, I think, delayed. There's a delay in case there's any kind of event that happens. They can cut the feed and other things. But you used a Perl script, is that correct?
Yeah, because it was a lazy hack, probably more, it was password cracking more than hacking. And
Right.
I've been a network worker for years, starting low level, just doing installation, configuration, and doing sysadmin. And knew that Windows was weak anyway. And yeah, I just wrote a Perl script that scanned for passwords that were either blank or used the word password or a few common, easy ones, or the same name as the account. So pretty basic stuff, really.
So they took all that, the program and all that when they confiscate. Did they confiscate your computers?
Oh yeah.
Who did that? The FBI? I mean, not the FBI, but the London authorities.
Yeah, they were called the National High Tech Crime Unit at the time, and now they're called Serious Organized Crime Agency. Yeah.
The National High Tech Crime Unit, and they were trying to bring you to the U.S. and under what's called extradition, right? To extradite you.
Yeah.
And how long did that last before they gave up on that? And what?
10.5 years.
10.5 years.
Yeah, 2002 March was the initial arrest, and 2012 November we finally won the case.
So basically, their network admins set up computers with blank administrative passwords. So it was just admin and password nothing. Or what about password?
Yep, password 123, and totally blank.
QWERTY is another one, right?
Yep, I don't think I had QWERTY in the list, but yeah, it probably would have worked. And on some networks, they'd obviously used an image, because when you install Windows on multiple machines, you don't go out physically to each machine. You blab this disk image out across the network and put the same image on all machines. And on some networks, every single machine had a blank password. And when you're doing the scanning and you get that many positive responses, you think, oh, it's crazy. It must be lots of false positives, or the firewall just sending you garbage. But you test a few at random and you can get onto the machine. So, but I think that's because they didn't employ IT professionals. They just used existing military personnel that had a knack for computers or whatever.
Were these Windows machines or Linux?
Only Windows.
Yeah, because this was before when Linux really took off. Actually,
there was Slackware. I was using Slackware as well sometimes, because you can use Linux to hack Windows as well.
Right on. And so they were using like Windows NT, but how did you get the you got basically remote access where you could move their see what's on their screen and move the mouse, right?
Yeah, that was easy. And once you've got an admin password,
yeah, you can go right in and install software on there, right?
Yeah, and this software was off-the-shelf software called Remotely Anywhere, and they had a version where, as long as you had admin access, you could do a remote silent install, so even the person on the other end would know something was happening.
Yeah, now you can do it through a Windows browser if they just get them on the right website. Oh.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's pretty amazing stuff. And what was on these computers?
well, it depended. And also because, you know, these weren't public websites, these were private military networks, government networks, Army, Air Force, NASA. So the first thing I had to do was find out which blocks of IP addresses they actually owned. And at the time, there were a lot of what they call IP indexes, where people use commands to build up a table of who owned which network blocks around the world. So I was using indexes like that to find, lots of places.
And you mentioned that there was folders on the computer, or was this Donna O'Hare? Because I know she's a NASA scientist, Donna O'Hare, who
Yeah, she passed
testified.
away, unfortunately.
Yeah, she passed away recently, but Donna O'Hare of NASA.
Donna Hare.
Yeah, Donna Hare, sorry. Yeah, this woman right here.
Yeah.
And she was one of the Disclosure Project witnesses. This was her I think, original Disclosure Project witness testimony.
Hey, Crypto.
Hello, Gary. Thanks for joining us. Sorry, late. I've been listening in, though. Excellent start and describing your horrible ordeal of being held for over a decade simply for they didn't secure their networks.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is it really hacking? What is they didn't really have the laws up on that back then. That was early. That was 2002. You said March, so that was like a lot of the cybersecurity acts and bills were written after that.
Yeah, it was basically cracking password cracking.
Some would argue due to McKinnon's actions, indeed.
No, we're not brothers, dude. But we just he's actually on the other side of the North American continent for me. He's over in BC. I'm on the East Coast. So, nope, that's not my brother. My brother is someone else.
Brothers of the heart.
Exactly. All three of us, indeed. I'm up in Canada, actually. I'm going to blame reindeer and caribou traffic for my tardiness today.
So, yes, yeah, that's fine. I want to know back to this issue of the NASA Building 8. Was it?
Yeah, Donna. Yeah, I've read in the Disclosure Project book that Donna said when she was, I think she had secret clearance, and one of her colleagues was literally across the corridor from her, and he said, "Oh, come and look at something interesting. You want to see something cool?" And he showed her what she at first thought was just a blob in the emulsion, like a white disc shape. And he said, "Yeah, but look, Donna, blobs don't have shadows." And he basically said, "So yeah, I spend my time airbrushing out UFO images from high-res satellite imagery before it's passed on to the public domain." And she said the very building, said not just JSC, but the actual building, Johnson Space Center, in Building 8.
And so that then became a target for you, right?
Yeah, I was already in JSC, but armed with the knowledge that Building 8 was where some of the stuff was going on. Around the same script on Building 8. There were only about a dozen machines that had blank passwords. And I jumped on one at random. And there was exactly what she said. It was a very clean, because a lot of these desktops, like when I did IT support, desktops are normally very messy with shortcuts and documents. These were very clean desktops, just folders for filtered and unfiltered, or processed and unprocessed. And double-click the folder, and they were images, but in a proprietary NASA format. And they were all huge, 200, 300 megabytes plus. And I was on a very slow connection, 56K dial-up at the time. And did plan to download some, but the first thing I wanted to do was see one. And of course, I didn't have proprietary NASA software, so I just double-clicked an image, and it
Yeah,
started.
kids have no idea what a 56K modem was and what it was like to
No.
connect to America Online when you got a disc in the mail and it said the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, AOL.
You
Yeah, I
use
was
your
using
phone,
that.
that's for sure, on the 56K.
There was the signal that the computer made when it would talk. If you lifted up the other phone when your computer modem was on the phone talking, that's what you heard, and that's what it would do. Like when you first, some people know, those of us who are around for that, but these kids, this new generation, will have no idea and never know, man. It all changed with the Roadrunner and the cable modems, the ability to do it through the cable. On coax. So
yeah, it was 5 minutes just to download 1 megabyte back then.
Yeah, it was not faster than Negi, I'm sorry to say. Definitely
not then.
not.
No.
It took like a day. Yeah, like you're saying, like it would took you what, 15, 20 hours or something just to get one picture or the first picture?
What you had to pay for your bit rate and how much bits you actually were able to download with the old internet is compared to what you pay now is just, you're getting gigabit for way cheaper than we got. Like, you have no idea. Anyways, I'm not going to argue with these people.
You don't look old enough to remember 56K, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was, when I was a kid, man, I played Doom. I played Duke Nukem. I played the first.
Command and Conquer here.
No, Commander Keen. Commander Keen.
Yeah.
I'm talking like old school ID games. I played all those old ass games. So, Dune was another one. Civilization, Command and Conquer. What was the other one?
Age of Empires, yeah.
Age of Empires, yeah. And Warcraft. Don't forget Warcraft.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, Quake 3. Hexen. Remember Hexen?
Yes. Hexen. That was one of the first.
Yeah, there was another one too with like a spaceships that you had to go through the tunnels and stuff. What was that one called?
Asteroid Blaster. Really? That was Atari, wasn't it?
What was that, Gary?
Unreal, but that was the 90s.
Unreal, maybe. It was like the first 3D one where it was like these, the spaceships. I remember flying around. It was kind of whack. Not looking back, but it was cool when I was playing it back in the 90s and stuff.
StarCraft.
Yeah, heck yeah. People know, dude. Old school, dude. Qbert, and I played like his Revenge and all the old school Atari games, way back in the day. I never played that one. I was too young for that one, but
that was my first one, the Atari 2600 video.
Yeah, the Atari was my first system, then NES. So these kids don't know. You have to go back. You can
Castle Wolfenstein. That was even before Doom and Duke Nukem, wasn't
it? There was a two-dimensional Duke Nukem that was a Commander Keen style that came out before that, and then that was their first 3D first-person shooter. But yeah,
and it was only 3D in the horizontal, so vertical.
Then they made Duke 3D, Duke Nukem 3D, where you could pay the strippers to show them your boob.
I forgot about
that. But yeah, man, we've come a long way.
Yeah, I get to see real boobs now.
Hey, man. Yeah, I said that.
I'm a nerd.
That was one of the first ones I said, dude. I used to play that for hours, and I had the level editor where you could build your own levels and stuff and make, Oh
wow.
That was fun. You could put teleporters in and make it. We built a whole crazy level. Anyways, dude, keep going, Gary. I don't mean to interrupt you with some nostalgic.
All right, last video game, Sim City. I played Sim City a lot. Now back to Gary
Oh
found.
no, I played Sim Earth and the where you had to terraform planets and stuff. I don't know if anyone else played that one.
Oh, it's heavy. I had a nuclear reactor simulator on the Atari. That was fun.
Man, bet you can't get that anymore.
I bet you could. It's a bit realistic.
I never played that game. I must have missed that one. I was like but let's talk about this. So 2002, you hack into NASA Building 8, and you looking for evidence of what Donna O'Hare said was there, and you said you saw it, right? And
Yeah, I found exactly what she said, exactly where she said it would be.
could you get screenshots or pictures of the screen? You know, anything?
Oh, yeah, I get maligned for this all the time because all I had to do was press print screen and I would have had it. But it was my eureka moment. I was sitting there with Beatty. I had to turn all the color down and everything to make it come down quicker. And I thought once I've seen one and confirmed it is what she said was there, then I planned to download them, which would have taken hours and hours and hours just to get.
Right. Well, you said they were in NASA proprietary image format as well, which is any idea what kind of format that was? I mean,
I wish I could remember the file extension. No.
Yeah.
But I guess I would have tried to find the application on the NASA system as well and download that to be able to view it on my own machine. But alas, that was what. So I was doing it through 2001 and then got caught in 2002. And yeah, I mean, it was my eureka moment, but it was the same day I got caught as well. Because I had remote control, I suddenly saw the mouse move of its own accord. Obviously, some of the other ends moving it. And they right-clicked on the LAN icon, chose disconnect, and boom, that was me out. So didn't even get to see the whole picture, but enough of it to know what she said was true.
Wow. And you
Like
said in this
that
picture,
verification moment, though, in your mind, you're just like, okay, what is here? It's real. Like, but let's get into it now, right?
Yeah. And also, they know, that there's a part of NASA that does know because they're actively suppressing it by airbrushing it out. So, what's that about? It's supposed to be a civilian agency, isn't it? But it's clearly mostly military.
You've literally documented, or you went in and verified in your own experience that NASA's buffing room or buffing building exists. They censor the images, and you found it, you got in it, and that right there, never a straight answer, verified.
Yep, National Association of Space Actors. Yeah.
So what really gets me is then you also found, was it in the Pentagon that had the server to this off-world fleet?
I think that was a Navy network. I found
Navy.
that on. Yeah. And that's, by the way, Solar Warden. Let me make this clear now. There's no such program, the Solar Warden. I never found it.
Solar Warden, that's it.
Solar Warden was a rumor started on the above top secret forum. So
right,
that's where it started. Some anonymous person said, "Oh, there's an off-world space fleet program called Solar Warden." So that's how that started. So,
but that's not connected to what you found, and you didn't start that and have no affiliation with that at all.
Not at all. I don't believe anything without evidence. So Solar Warden.
All right, that's cool. I was wondering about that. I'm glad we covered it, as I wanted to bring it up. But they didn't bring you back. Yeah, they tried to bury him, and they buried this in the media. It only got out through the tabloids and a couple of UFO channels, which is how I found out about it.
It was very quiet. There was hardly any press in America. I think because they were embarrassed about the lack of security, they didn't want so much publicity.
No, they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to let people know how easy it was, or that they could do the same thing on other networks of businesses and companies and other infrastructure. Because sure, it's not the first or the last time anyone's left a back door like that open.
The DOD gets like 250,000 hits a year, and that was back then. So God knows how many now.
So they did. They were trying. They held the case open for 10.5 years, but they didn't end up extraditing him in that because they were just afraid that it would cause too much. I think the only reason they would drop the case, because they don't drop stuff for nothing. I mean, the only
Oh,
reason
they didn't drop it. They didn't drop it. Our Home Secretary at the time told them, no, you're not having it.
Oh, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So you can't hop on a flight and come here and check out our lab, right?
I'd love to, but I'd never be. I'd never come
They'd
back.
arrest you on the spot, right?
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
even an Interpol warrant out, so I can't even go to Europe.
It's like Paul McCartney. He can't go to Japan anymore because of that song.
You can't even go into Europe. They still have a warrant out, you said.
Yeah, Interpol. I couldn't even attend my dad's funeral in Scotland because Scotland has a separate judicial system to England. And I did ask the government for, surety that if I did attend the funeral, could they guarantee that I wouldn't be picked up? And they said, no, we can't. So it's,
wow.
Yeah, they still want my ass. They're still heavy on it. What was that about Paul McCartney in Japan?
So thank you for clearing up that you have no affiliation with the Solar Warden program. That's just that's basically like, it was a disinfo spoof on what you actually found, and it was other, because they do that a lot. They'll take real stuff that leaks out and they'll make a fake leak that sounds like the same exact thing, and then fill it with dino beavers and poltergeists and werewolves and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, security via obfuscation, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's some security by obscurity and obfuscation. What should I look up? What was the other thing? I wanted to bring up the DOD and U.S. Navy is what you found, right? So you said inside the U.S. Navy, inside DOD, and Pentagon is where you found the link to some off-world fleet stuff, right?
No. Yeah, this was an Excel file. And because once I was on the network, I mean, sometimes with so many machines, it's too big a job for one guy. And so I used a program called Land Search, which searched every PC on the network. And I generally, after getting admin access to one machine, I could then get the password file for the domain and use a program called LoftCrack to crack the NT passwords for the whole domain, and end up being domain controller there. So it was really crap encryption, and it still is as far as I know. It's the same NT kernel, even though it's a different Windows now. It's the same NT kernel in the core. And yeah, this spreadsheet it was non-terrestrial officers. Now you can interpret that how you like. It could mean, on the moon. It could mean low Earth orbit. It could mean, little green guys. God knows, but.
This could be like the precursor to like Space Force, like it always existed before they actually created it. It wasn't official, Yeah.
And that term, non-terrestrial officers, I looked it up at the time and there was nothing. And now if you look it up, it's generally linked to me as the only place you can find that term.
Man. So, U.S. Navy, I got a question from the audience right now, actually. Hold on. David has a $2 super chat question, so we're going to ask it. Gary,
about Elon's car in space.
Yeah. What do you think about Elon's car in space?
If I had it on the ground, I'd just rape it for its batteries and throw the rest away, I think. Well, I think space is real, and I think we live in a sphere. I don't know about Elon's car in space. I mean, it looked like CGI, didn't it? Who knows?
Right, and it seems like so much of it is CGI, and that is it because they're blocking out all this other activity that's going on up there that they don't want us to see?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of confusion these days, isn't there? Because, and as Jeremy said, they like to sow disinformation and confusion. I mean, like a flat Earth. I've done the flat Earth argument with a lot of people. And
you said the word, man. You can't. No, the whole stream's contaminated.
Oh no!
No,
They're
well,
gonna flag it now. You
but
can't say
it's a
that.
very good point, because from like a physics perspective in mathematics, you can't prove one or the other right or wrong necessarily. And with the counterintelligence operations, that it's the perfect way to be like, oh, don't think we have off-world capabilities if there's no such thing as space, and that they just pump it huge, right?
Yeah, but then there's
I wonder.
basic observation, but you're right, isn't there? The moon appears to be round, and the other planets appear to be round. So I think this
Yeah, well,
planet's
one of the questions I had, Gary, is I remember one of the interviews you mentioned that at one time you could see how many other outside people had access to those networks while with you, right?
yeah, loads, and
And
not
they were
surprising since there were blank passwords. They're literally loads from all around the world. You do a command in Windows in the console called netstat, and you see all the
what is it?
connected
What's the command?
netstat, network status.
Netstat. Okay.
Ooh, great
And
question by
yeah,
Anthony. For non-terrestrial officers, did it say how long for each tour of duty?
No, I had a list of names and ranks, and possibly locations as well. I can't remember.
Locations.
Yeah, like basic.
yeah, there's lots of ways that you can prove the Earth is round, but it's unfalsifiability of the theory. You know, like as Einstein said, you know, all it takes is one person to prove the theory wrong. He can never prove his theory right. Right? That's what he was saying. So I just want to clarify that. People are like, "Oh my God, what am I watching?" You're watching Alien Scientists, dude. And this is the best channel on UFOs that you're gonna find. I don't know. There's some awesome ones out there too, and you know, UFO Shane, and of course Alien Addict with my man Ollie over there, and they got some good ones down in Australia too. With
Yeah, UFO Lou in Australia, John Leonard Walton with his gigantic telescope on the moon, filming the moon.
Finn Bugden. Yeah, let's do some shout outs. What are your favorite YouTube channels there, Gary?
Oh man, Alien Scientist, Cryptid Alchemist.
Right on.
The Facts, How to Hunt, because I've listened to about 2,000 hours of Bigfoot witness testimony, and I think there's something there.
I experienced one this summer. I swear to God, but that's a
No
story.
way. Wow. I'd love to hear about that. Is this the right time? I'm ready.
Okay, I'll give a little brief one. And my girlfriend Amber was with me, and we were out in the mountains in British Columbia, in Headley, BC, and it's a very small town. And I was staying with my friend Craig, a viewer from YouTube, actually, that we met, invited us out. And he actually invited us out because he had witnessed UFOs on the top of one of the mountains in Headley and filmed them a couple years prior. And I've shown his videos a couple times. Maybe we'll even look at them by the end of this. But we're in this camper, and it was like maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. The sun had just set, and I'm having a cigarette at the outside of the camper. And Amber's like, "Bernie, cut it out. What's that noise?" And I'm like, "That's not me." And there's like something grunting, making like some weird noises right from the tree line. And I'm like, okay. And I like both kind of like spooked, and I closed the door. And sorry, to start it off, before she said anything, I got like that I'm being watched feeling, you know, like your hair stands up or whatever. And then so we close the door. We just like go into talking or whatever. And about 5 to 10 minutes later, we hear something that went up maybe about 100 meters or so up like this ravine from us into like where the canyon echoed, and it made this calling of like go go woo thing, like just weird. And then we hear another one like a couple kilometers or miles away calling back to it, and I'm like, we're both like super spooked at this point, and they're like, okay, what the heck's going on? And then
you're up in Canada, man. This is my buddy. This is not Gary. No, they don't have Sasquatch up in the UK, man. This is North American beat, British Columbia.
There's been sightings in Scotland.
So after that, Amber falls asleep, or is like falling asleep about 15-20 minutes later, and I'm like, barricading the door and like found some fireworks to like possibly shoot off, like thinking like this thing's coming in. And all of a sudden, something walks up from the tree line and starts sniffing at the window, and the window's like 8 feet up. And I'm just petrified. And like, I should have opened the window and, you know, taken a picture, but instead I sprayed some cologne and used the phone as a flashlight, and something, I swear, like it dropped. It sounded like it dropped and rolled away. And in the morning, I went out, and like the night before, it was completely grass, like undisturbed, waist high, nothing there. And sure enough, there was footprints coming from this dry creek bed, from the tree line up to this camper. And then it was flattened like something had laid down and rolled out. It was like the creepiest, scariest thing I've ever encountered in my life. Honest to God. That's
I would have filmed it, and you know, sometimes when predators see, owls and stuff will see like predators going through the forest, and they'll signal to each other. So you might have heard like another animal, like a bird or something, signaling.
Danger call
too.
I've been out there too. The best way to scare bears away. Okay, I won't be present, and I'll just let you interview my girlfriend and like the story she'll tell, and it's crazy, man.
All right, Bernie. All right, we appreciate you interrupting.
But yeah,
our NASA DOD hacker for your Bigfoot story. Jesus. No, I believe you. I believe you, man. There's some crazy, scary stuff out there, and you're braver than me to be camping out in those Canadian Rockies. So, but let's get back on topic here, guys. And you know, there's a lot of fakery out there. And if you call it fake, those guys are hunters, man, and they'll kill you. So don't mess around with Bigfoot. Yeah. So. In any case, there's the dang Sasquatch. Now all I can think about is a Sasquatch, and there was something else I wanted. Anyways, the Sasquatch is a whole nother other topic, and I don't usually talk about it. So I'm surprised you just jammed it in there. I don't know how we got on that.
Sasquatch and UFOs, they seem to all like, there's a lot of reports that there's UFOs around going way out there. What if Sasquatch fly the UFOs? And you know, the whole evolution is backwards.
A robotic construct to protect sensitive areas.
Oh my God!
All right, I'm sorry.
Let's. Morgan, shush. We can talk about what we like.
People liked it, man. It was cool. I like it, but in any case, let's get back to like some science here, and obviously you haven't hacked since they raided you and computers.
Never
right?
again.
Yeah. They actually can you use a computer now?
Oh yeah, I was banned for a while.
Clearly,
but you're on one now. Yeah, he's on one now with us. So we're not breaking the law right now.
Nope.
Publicly to give this interview. When did you get your rights to use a computer? Actually, you couldn't even go on the internet for a while, right?
Yeah, for the 10 years duration of the extradition. Yeah, it might have been from. Yeah, I think from summer 2002, a few months after the initial arrest, banned from using anything connected to the internet. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had to just like call people on the telephone and.
Well, my girlfriend was my proxy. Let's put it that way.
Oh, nice. All right, that's good, man. Yeah. Damn, that's. I hope you're married to her now, man. You should have.
Practically, yeah.
Practically, you're still with her, right?
Yeah, 18 or nearly 19 years. Yeah.
Awesome, man. She's a keeper.
That's longer than the majority of marriages. So congrats and awesome partner right there.
She's a keeper.
Yeah.
She sounds like a keeper.
Yeah.
But what so you couldn't do anything. You obviously haven't hacked or tried hacking since. But you were in there with hundreds of other people that were obviously doing the same thing.
Yeah.
why do you think we've not heard more about any of those people? Do you think
They were clever enough not to be caught.
Yeah.
I mean, by the end of it, I was getting a bit slapdash because it seemed like such a lack of security. I thought I could just, walk around willy-nilly looking at what I wanted to look at. So I even started doing direct connections, whereas initially I'd set up proxy chains and go from one to the other, but got lazy, got caught. The ego took over.
So you definitely you reached out to you've been on Tim Ventura's channel, of course. You reached out through you're a big fan of the APEC conference, is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. I watched hours and hours of those. Yeah, I still have some catching up to do. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much on there. We've really outdone ourselves with a lot of that. You know what's even crazier? I don't know if you heard of the STAFE conference.
Nope.
The STAFE conference is one of the older conferences that came before NASA. I don't even know if you can find much on it anymore. Yeah, this is it. There's a Wikipedia article on it now. This is awesome. This is history, guys. This is, and we're like a huge part of it now. I want to just announce that Tony Robertson has the entire STAFE and STAFE 1 and STAFE 2 archives. Okay, and this was like APEC of the 80s and 90s, like early 2000s and stuff. Like this was this is major stuff. So we have all that information now, and we're hoping to bring a lot of that out, make it public somehow. I'd like to find a way to make that all go public. It's going to take a lot of time, and because it's a lot of material to archive and then put it all together and then put it up. But yeah, this was what existed before APEC, way back in the day, and
So that's a gold mine. Wow.
so this is like a gold mine. This is where you're going to find all kinds of recent PhDs that pitched projects here at this conference that got picked right up by DOD and DARPA and went straight into black projects. Yeah, mother load. Bing, 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 bing.
This is somewhere public I can go and view it today, or?
No, it is not publicly available now. We have the archive. It's being secured, and I'm going to send it around. You actually do have, if you have a couple gigabytes of storage free, a couple 100 gigabytes of storage free.
Hell yeah.
I'll be willing to give you a link to it and share it with you so you can go and download it. And maybe, we need some help with that project if anyone is interested or wants to be on board with that. Because we're gonna get that out, and that information's all 20 years old now, man. It needs to be declassified and put out there. So we're gonna go ahead and we're doing mandatory declassification. We don't have a review board like the Pentagon and the government has to do to go through all that stuff because it's security by obscurity. Because not a lot of people are actually going to. Only the really interested people are going to dig into this. And of that, you really have to probably dig to find some good stuff in here because it's not a clean. I'm sure there's a lot of, if it's 20 years ago, I'm sure it's a lot even dirtier than APEC, trying to, it's even rougher and with the ideas, because we've come a long way.
That's what I originally loved about your channel, the fact you went through patents and you did all the groundwork, all the detailed stuff that matters.
Yeah, man, this is I'm trying to make sure I cover everything with your story. So we've got through a lot of stuff. I don't think there's much else to say because you didn't take a picture of the damn screen and you don't have a photograph you've hidden for, the last 21 years anywhere, right? You can just whip out for us. And this would be the place to disclose it, Gary.
I'm actually trying to get, I wish I had something. I'm trying to get my hard drive back still. It's with the ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence in Washington. But I doubt I'll ever get it back because the case is still live in their eyes.
And so the Office of Naval Intelligence, and like you were saying, that's where the Navy was where you found this extraterrestrial officer
No,
files.
that wasn't where I found it. That's who has my hard drive. But I'm pretty sure it was a Navy system where I found
The Navy system.
The trouble was I was shooting blind a lot of the time, because I'd get onto like the edge of a network, or go in through a contractor or a logistics or an admin site, and then leverage up and explore the network. So a lot of the time I wasn't even sure if it was the original network I was still on, or some subnet or connected net.
Gotcha, right? And with all of the compartmentalization and whatnot within the different branches, that, yeah, you'd just be seeing information and not sure where exactly it's coming from. A question I've got is, do you recall or remember seeing anything or much on Antarctica within their files and stuff? Nothing.
No. Unfortunately, because it's a very interesting place, isn't it? What's going on.
I mean, for NASA, it would be very interesting if NASA, was, looking into or had files or things on Antarctica specifically.
Well, wasn't it? And as a scientist, was it Robert S. Harrington, that initially theorized Planet 9, and he said it could only be viewed from very far south. Planet X, I mean.
Really?
No.
I do. That does bring a memory of it, right? And that I swear I see something I call it like the Death Star, and it like appears for a couple of months each winter at like the deepest, darkest time of the year. And so it's like, I guess that would be far north, the exact opposite, but potentially just inverted, right? Something similar could be. Oh, and Stefan, actually, Stellium and Gary have met and already recorded a couple of podcasts or interview together, correct?
Yeah, we had a few 2 or 3 hour phone conversations as well that weren't recorded.
Yeah, Mike's a good guy.
Yeah.
Interesting perspectives.
I like how he doesn't call it flat Earth. He calls it, what does he call it? I'm a sphere skeptic.
Yeah.
He says.
And like I said, right, it's like from mathematics and physics, you can't prove one or the other right or wrong from the astrological level and like how the stars work. And
you can prove it wrong. You can't prove it right.
Yeah.
You can prove you can prove anything wrong.
Yeah.
And it has been proven wrong.
Well, yes.
Oh,
there's 2 working models. I mean, sorry.
That's what we're trying to do. What we try to do is prove stuff wrong. So you can never prove it right. So you can never prove that the Earth's actually spherical. But
I thought
you could prove that it isn't. One simple experiment, and a lot of people, die. Lots of those flat earthers have died trying. Man, they launched their planes into space. Yeah. Oh, the Assange story is crazy, man. That they hired like strippers to go and sleep with him and then claim that he raped them and stuff.
Oh yeah, and one of them was an ex-CIA asset.
Yeah.
What? I didn't hear about that part of it.
No, dude, be careful, man. Just be careful out there, man. They'll get you.
And they raided him in the Ecuadorian embassy in the UK. And how long has he been away now? And free Assange. While we're on the topic, thank God that the Assange case didn't happen to Gary. But at the same time, free Assange, because we need whistleblowers. We need the truth coming out. And we have to stop punishing those that speak the truth and deliver the truth to the public.
Well, he's going through a very similar experience, except I wasn't under duress or house arrest. And of course, now he's in Belmarsh prison. He's been there, I think, nearly 4 years now. And it's basically illegal what's happening to him. It's ridiculous.
And who's that again?
Julian Assange.
Oh, yeah, Julian Assange. Yeah. Sorry, I thought we were...
I went to a couple of functions in support of him with his wife and colleagues and supporters. Really nice bunch of people just working for truth in journalism.
Yeah, it's crazy what they did to him. At least they didn't Michael Hastings him.
Yeah, the hover coil. I'd like to know how that was constructed because it looked like it was the usual copper coil, high current above a metallic surface, but that table was metallic. So
Yeah, we try out a lot of that stuff, man. And well, Mark said he's getting like 20% weight reduction with some of the samples in the NMR EPR experiments and stuff. So
right.
And
I'm
well,
getting
and
some weight reduction using these asymmetric capacitor experiments. I've only tested aluminium plates and glass as a dielectric so far, but got some weight loss, and I've shielded it, done a Faraday cage around the digital scales and stuff just to make sure there's no interference.
100 whistleblowers. What are you talking about? These whistleblowers and this kind of stuff. This is crazy. I didn't hear about this, man. I don't know. I didn't hear about that, Anthony.
I've heard of a few 9/11 whistleblowers that died mysteriously suddenly.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, and a lot of people don't even know there's any whistleblowers about 9/11. I'm going to be talking on Friday to this guy Ashton Forbes. He's coming on about the
MH370.
MH370. Yeah, what happened to that Malaysian plane?
Yeah,
Very similar to what happened with the flights on 9/11, I believe, with the technologies that were employed.
fly by wire. Yeah,
And yeah, there was like people don't know the plane that crashed into the Pentagon. There wasn't a lot of people. That flight usually would have carried like 250 passengers, but I think only like 100 or 50 something people died on that plane. It was like half full. And the people that did die on it, there's like a bunch of people that worked on the radar physics group at the Pentagon and stuff. So we're gonna bring all that up and go into all that stuff and
Wow.
the flight termination technology that they had, the ability to hack the GPS, augmented GPS waypoints for the autopilot system, so they could basically like lock out all the cockpit controls and program any waypoints they want into the damn software.
I hope you've got a good home security system.
Yeah, they have a huge hole in their security systems for these planes, you know. And
the world's safest building with no camera footage of it being hit by this plane.
Oh, there was, wasn't there? It was from a petrol station across the road, but the FBI took the tapes, and no one's ever seen them.
Yep, there's a lot of weird things that don't make sense about what happened that day, and just like a lot of things that don't make sense about what happened to this flight and why it completely disappeared. No black boxes, no tracers, no wreckage, no debris, not even scrap. People dredged the ocean floors.
To Diego Garcia, and Diego Garcia being the red herring in the case, and that it is like one of the NASA, or it's got a NASA-sized landing strip, and it's one of the U.S. Navy's and Air Force's like biggest military bases out in the Indian Ocean. It's
I think there's a British military presence there as well.
Yeah,
the British own it. The British own the island, and then the U.S. military leases it from them.
Yeah, this big naval support center, and they actually can land the space shuttle or other things there if they an emergency.
But to answer a previous question in the comment, I never found out anything about 9/11, unfortunately.
No, and you won't. Not on those kind of computers like that. It was all, and I've explained this before. Why not? I go over it in my videos. It was all run by private corporations. You know, these front companies and shell companies. You know.
Yeah.
A series of them, and one of them will be the parent company and own this and that, and it's quite a. But it all links back to the Iran Contra scandal, people, and the first Kuwait War. You know.
And there's probably a lot of data in WTC7, but that went down. So.
Yes, well, it's a whole rabbit hole. But yeah, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld actually used to work for the main tenant of that building, Solomon Smith Barney was a bank that owned about 80% of World Trade 7. And Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld used to actually sit on the Foreign Policy Advisory Board.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You know, we talk about how Rumsfeld announced the day before 9/11 the $2.3 trillion.
Yeah.
You know, that was missing from the Pentagon budget.
Yeah.
And then the next day, 9/11 happens. The comptroller of the Pentagon helped write the PNAC documents. That was the plant project for the New American Century, where they basically said they needed a new Pearl Harbor to start a 100-year war in the Middle East, and they got it.
Yep. With chaos comes opportunity.
Right. The that guy, Dov Zakheim, the comptroller, number 3 in charge in the Pentagon that day. Dick Cheney was running 9/11 from the basement of the White House, with Donald Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz handling things at the Pentagon, along with and then there was these E-4Bs, the Doomsday planes. They're basically the an E-4B is like the president's. It's like a copy of Air Force One. The president's plane that flies around, but they can do like all kinds of operations from one of these things. And there was 2 of them seen flying around on 9/11. And
Right.
that's not unexpected, because during an emergency event, they would try to confuse foreign intelligence by flying a couple of these around, so that if they were like trying to target Air Force One, they'd shoot down the wrong plane.
Oh, so they got up there, but they couldn't send any intercepting jets.
Yeah, they get up there.
They were all
distract,
busy
but
on their drills, right? They were all busy on the same drills intercepting fake hijacked planes that day.
Yeah, just like the London 7/7 bombings. There's always an operation just before the real thing.
Yes, yeah, there's a bunch of weird coincidences like that too. But one of the weirdest coincidences is this company, Systems Planning Corporation, and that's where this is like a private corporation, where you wouldn't be able to get FOIAs, so you wouldn't be able to get 9/11 stuff from a company like this. But if you go and do the research into them, you'll find out, when Ted Gunderson, I don't know if you're familiar with Ted Gunderson, he's an FBI whistleblower who testified that the FBI gave an informant real explosives, told him that he was using fake explosives and taking part in a drill. They switched the explosives for real explosives. This guy documented the whole thing, but the FBI bombed the World Trade Center in 1993. And
in Biggie Small's song, it was the FBI that actually blew up the World Trade Center.
Yeah. So they blew it up in 93. And the company that was hired to repair the World Trade Center in 93 was a company called Tridata Corporation. SPC Tridata Corporation. So that's, again, Systems Planning Corporation is the parent company. Tridata Corp is the shell company. So Tridata Corp does the reconstruction of the World Trade Center in 93 after the FBI blows it up. They get all the blueprints. So they had the engineering, they knew how to bring the towers down. That was like the test run to see how it reacted, how much explosives they needed, everything, how much they needed to use to actually finish off the job, right? Then SBC, is involved in the Pentagon with Dov Zakheim, the head of it, running the things at the Pentagon on 9/11. SPC's international division corporation is working on this thing called the Flight Radar Physics Group. Let me find the here it is, right here. So I'll share this link with the audience so people can look that up too. But that's another really interesting, and this was what really got me down the rabbit hole. Once I learned about that they covered all this stuff up, I was like, they can cover up aliens, they can cover up all this stuff if they can keep this a secret, man. This is just like crazy, because a couple of the scientists that were involved in this died on Flight 77 when it crashed into the Pentagon. So they killed the guys who were working on this. The same kind of thing that happened with U-370, which is insane, because what happened on that flight is the Freescale Semiconductor lost 20 scientists, and 3 of them were like top patent holders, top guys. And Freescale Semiconductor is basically like the patents that I looked up that these guys did, which I'm going to bring up on Friday on the show and dive deep into this, is it's related to a lot of the same radar physics stuff that this group was working on that was killed at the Pentagon, with technology that was probably used on 9/11.
That's beyond probability, isn't it, really?
And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that this is again what happened with the final approach of UA-175 into the South Tower was filmed from 12 different angles. So it's very easy to map out in 3D all the exact flight movements and flight path that UA-175 took during its last 12 seconds are captured on film.
Oh yeah, trajectory, speed.
The trajectory and speed, if you analyze the plane's movements and its trajectory, it during the last 12 seconds, it only made one single corrective maneuver.
Whoa,
okay, if you were flying it, you'd be making constant corrective maneuvers. That's a human pilot. If it was a computer controlled, it would just go ship.
Right, and like the G forces, I remember hearing something about like the G forces of those turns going in at that low altitude, turning in to take it. It's like I supposedly like ace pilots can barely even make them, right? Like it's only could be done by remote controlled artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who claim that that they could. There's a couple people who've tried to replicate what the plane did in a simulator. Very hard to do.
We had General Wesley Clark, I think it was, saying that we already had Iraq on a list of countries to attack.
And that's the more important thing than trying to get lost in the, was it controlled demolition? Was it remote control planes, or was it this or that, or was it directed energy and and all that crap? Those are distractive arguments that get away from the core story. And again, it's all about the plan, right? So the Armageddon plan, if people want to know, was this whole plan during the 80s. Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld were involved in what are called continuity of government think tanks. And these COG think tanks were actually would meet with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and their job was to come up with doomsday scenarios. Their job was to plan 9/11. Their job was to predict and plan what terrorists could possibly do to take down the U.S. infrastructure or anything, that they could, with anything that they could get their hands on, right? So their job is to, they're the ones who set up with the FBI that monitor, who buys thallium, so that when people are buying too much thallium or distributors are, selling thallium, they get raided like Bob Lazar did for selling thallium, right? It's just part of the whole project. So that's why the FBI was there at Mark's lab looking for grade uranium or whatever. Somebody claims.
I think it was an Arabian company that got hold of some World Trade Center masonry, and they did find traces of thermite, or claim to have found traces of thermite.
Yes, well, the thermite thing is interesting because there's what was made was untraceable, and when I look into the thermite, I found a connection that's interesting between, where it links back to the same contractors that were suspected of, and you can look this up, Battelle thermite linear shape charge. Okay, so they developed thermite charges, and Battelle are also the expert metallurgists, so they'd been able to get the chemistry right so that this stuff wouldn't produce slag, or at least be unrecognizable or untraceable in the slag that it did produce. And there's lots of different types of thermites that you can actually make, whether you use, aluminum or you can add barium, you can add lots of other things, which also lower the melting point of steel. Sulfur will lower the melting point of steel, so it actually cuts quicker and faster if you add sulfur to the thermite.
Right.
And which they found sulfadated steel in World Trade Center 7 steel. That's an Appendix C of the FEMA report.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, there's a whole metallurgy study that was done, and a lot of people don't know about it, and you can't find it when you search for it now. They hid it too. So if you search Appendix C FEMA report, something else comes out. So luckily I know Jonathan Barnett was the metallurgist who wrote the study on it, and here it is. All right, so here it is, and I'll share that with the audience because it's really hard to find this study. But this is a scientific study which will shut down most debunkers, most skeptics. Some will still hold tight to their beliefs, but not one of them has ever produced a single experiment where they actually show how to get this to happen to steel with anything that's in a normal office fire building or jet fuel or anything that's in the official story. Okay.
Yeah.
We can produce this with thermite, and we know that thermite does this to steel, melts it with holes like Swiss cheese in it. Like, this is structural steel from World Trade Center 7. Very suspicious. They recommended more studies should be done on it. It wasn't conclusive what caused this rapid corrosion and sulfide eutectic formation, intergranular melting of the steel. But yeah, this was pretty solid evidence as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, looks like a deep
The temperatures that were reached at the World Trade Center were beyond what are capable in the official story. So that's like the hard science on when I get into it. And if you really want to get into the investigation that was done was the NIST report, right?
Yeah.
NIST was most of those NIST report scientists were actually people who worked for SAIC, right? So they took a bunch of these SAIC scientists, brought them over to the NIST study, and had them help with the NIST report and do a lot of the work. They outsourced and helped with a lot of the work for that, right? So SAIC is an interesting company because SAIC. They did remote viewing studies, by the way. They're the ones who picked up the remote viewing program after SRI, the Stanford Research Institute, with Hal Puthoff and all those guys. So SAIC picked up the whole remote viewing project in like 95. And then after that, right before 9/11, they were working on airport scanner technologies and how to make people scanners and stuff. So they had a plan. They must have remote viewed 9/11 and knew that it was coming because they had the whole plan ahead of time to build all these airport scanners. And now when you go to the airport, you'll see their airport scanners all over. They've changed their name to Leidos Corporation, and the airport scanners are in every single airport. And when you go through airport security or checkpoint, you'll see them. I know you can't because you can't leave the UK, so you probably won't see them.
No,
but
I go to the airport and view from afar.
But yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, people wanted me to talk about 9/11, so I will. But yeah, that's why you're not going to hack into the. That's why John Greenwald claims that we can't find any documents and FOIA requests show up nothing for 9/11. Well, it's all in the continuity of government program in the 80s, where Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld's job was to plan 9/11.
Yeah.
And then you go fast forward to, the companies that all converged on the World Trade Center and the people that all converged on the World Trade Center, like, Paul Bremer, Jeffrey Greenberg, right? Jeffrey Greenberg is the head of, his father is Maurice Greenberg, right? So there was a big article that was put out recently by a guy from the CFR. If you do CFR 9/11, this resource, right here, 7 resources debunking 9/11 conspiracy theories, and this was put out by the Council on Foreign Relations.
A totally credible organization when it comes to
Yeah,
truth.
totally. And the guy that wrote it, James M. Lindsley, all right, his expert bio is he's the vice president, director of studies, and he's the Maurice Greenberg chair at the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. Okay. Maurice Greenberg. What is the Maurice Greenberg chair? Okay, so Maurice Greenberg, this guy ran AIG. Okay.
Yeah.
AIG was started by a guy named Cornelius Vanderstar, who was basically essential in collecting intelligence during World War II on Japan that led to the bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Because the insurance companies, if you have infrastructure needs to be insured, right?
Yeah.
So the insurance companies have records and documents on where all your infrastructure is in any different country. So when they were trying to figure out where the best place to bomb, where the Japanese had the most infrastructure and where it would hit them the hardest, the people who provided them with that intelligence were the insurance companies, and the insurance companies that was AIG. That was AIG.
Right, yeah.
So AIG and insurance companies have been down with the intelligence community since the 1940s, since World War II. Which is crazy because people when they think 9/11, they don't think insurance people and men in suits. They think I'm no terrorist. I hate America. Die. And they don't.
And of course, 9/11, we also had the put options, didn't we? But SEC
Right.
did have a couple of names, didn't they?
But the crazy thing, AIG was convicted.
Mind if I jump in for a minute?
Yeah, if you want right now, I guess. So.
Hey guys. I
Hey.
just wanted to mention my inside contact guy was at AIG previously. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, like you said, he was like a high-level Freemason, showed me all this crazy stuff, and yeah, he was working for AIG.
AIG is super connected, dude. So yeah, the fact that Maurice Greenberg was the head of AIG in 2008, AIG got convicted of running reinsurance scams. So what they did is they basically, this guy is running in the World Trade Center. His dad insures the World Trade Center. Okay. Make sure that AIG doesn't take the hit because they resold all those policies through reinsurance scams, which were never investigated. Nor was Larry Silverstein, who ran the biggest, insurance scam on, made $6-7 billion off the Twin Towers, claiming it was it accounted for twice because two towers accounted for 2 attacks. So he got double the money, all the money to rebuild the whole thing, and all paid off. So the insurance companies, that was a big thing that people don't get about who pulled it all together. And the fact that these people are writing, propaganda articles for the CFR now, trying to convince, the world or other world leaders that they didn't do 9/11, No, these are conspiracy theories, guys. Here's resources debunking them, which, don't dig into any of the, hard science or facts that are really out there on it. But yeah, they think they can cover it up, man. And they have to a degree. There's a lot in the mainstream that people don't know, and they don't come down the rabbit holes, man. But so much. Hey, do you know about November 22nd is JFK assassination? And there's a ton of new stuff that's come out on the JFK assassination. So the big connection is with Harold Byrd and the Payne family. The people, most of the Warren Commission is based on, Lee Harvey Oswald's landlord, this woman, Ruth Payne. It turns out her sister worked for the CIA, and she was like a closet lesbian who was a lover. One of her lovers was Alan Dulles' mistress.
Whoa, no way.
Yeah. So this is the lady who provided, most of the testimony to the Warren Commission that, she had taken Oswald in and, she was trying to help the poor young man and he was distraught and then eventually he just killed the president, and
but she was a liar, a cheater, and promiscuous.
Oh, she's biggest CIA agent ever. It's insane.
That's crazy.
And this is like the whole the crux of the JFK story. Now, what's crazy is she went and visited her sister out in Virginia at the CIA headquarters right before picking up the Oswalds in New Orleans and driving them back from New Orleans to Dallas and giving them an apartment where they housed the Oswalds in Dallas. It's crazy that when they picked her up, they picked the Oswalds up in New Orleans. Lee Harvey Oswald was living in New Orleans, handing out flyers for the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. It was this fake COINTELPRO organization that was being run by the FBI out of 554 Camp Street. And that was Guy Bannister's office. Okay. So Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy who shoots the JFK, the guy who gets blamed, the patsy who ends up getting blamed for the assassination, right, is connected with Guy Bannister of the FBI. Guy Bannister is the FBI agent that created the X-Files. Okay.
What?
So
and was
the
it the final
X-Files
episode of the X-Files?
This is real. This is like you can't make this shit up, dude. It's insanity. But people have like always been puzzled over these. They start digging into the JFK assassination and they find all these connections to. They find connections to private aerospace companies, Lockheed Martin guys. All this crazy stuff that's related to the X-Files is related to the UFO file, and JFK was in part killed to cover up the real X-Files. I believe that's what the connections have shown us. That we've come. A lot of people have puzzled over and been like, no, these can't be real connections, dude. Like there's no way. And a lot of researchers just end their investigation there and go with the mafia or the CIA or this or that. And they don't dig deeper into like the fact that like this is private aerospace and not the show X-Files.
Yeah,
These are the real FBI's real X-Files. They were started by Guy Bannister at Guy Bannister's office at 554 Camp Street, where Lee Harvey Oswald was like handing out flyers before Payne picks him up. The CIA agent Payne picks him up and brings him to Dallas, gives him a job at the School Book Depository building, which is owned by Harold D. Byrd. Okay, Harold Byrd is the nephew of Admiral Byrd, the Antarctica expeditions.
No fucking way, Jesus Christ! That's mental. That's mental.
It's insanity. Not
to mention Mark's recent visit by the FBI proves that they still have an active UFO UAP investigation department, right?
We're trying to figure out who those agents are, man. We got Jim Diorio on the case and trying to look into that for us, man. That would be crazy if they have Men in Black still.
Did you ask for ID when they visited?
What's that?
Were they asked for ID when they visited?
Yeah, they showed him FBI badges, and the Daily Mail called the New Jersey office of them and confirmed that they did send two agents. So that was confirmed that was FBI, not guys posing as them or whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. And again, there was some bad, we mixed up the guy originally. It wasn't the original guy that we thought. It wasn't the guy who was an expert in money laundering investigations. So it has not, I don't even think it had anything to do with that. That was just a misidentification and a link up to that. So I think the investigation is around.
I wonder if there actually is a tie between anti-gravity technology and enriched uranium, because that's what they were supposedly looking for, potentially, or that's a cover, one or the other, right?
No, that was just what someone saw on a stream and reported or called up and made a stupid, tried to swat us or something. I don't know who made the call. All they told us is that it came from out of state, and we don't have any more information on it. Other than that, I just think that we're gonna try and get some more info, I guess, you get a file for your FBI file, and they have to give you your file so you can get access.
Oh yeah,
to
you were saying
that.
about FOIA requests and getting your own file. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to go about it and get it and figure out what they were after and stuff. But
Yeah, you got to do that.
yeah. So then, anyways, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. One of the guys who was the tramps, right, in the case, this guy Fred Chrisman, he looks just like who's Tommy Lee Jones from Men in Black. He's basically Tommy Lee Jones's character is based on this guy in real life. Fred Chrisman was one of the he's been fingered as actually one of the tramps. There was these 3 tramps that were hiding in a train car out behind the grassy knoll in Dealey Plaza that were arrested, and they brought him to the police station, booked him, and then someone came down and released him, and they lost, the police department in Dallas lost all the records. Of course, the police, there was a couple people in the police department they've now identified as top conspirators and CIA agents who worked with the CIA to help cover up a lot of the stuff, who obviously were the guys who let those guys go and didn't book them or fingerprint them. But one of them was later identified as Fred Chrisman through these old newspaper photographs. He was subpoenaed actually by Jim Garrison's trial of Clay Shaw, and they found a bunch of stuff on Fred Chrisman. He was basically he was like a high school teacher that they'd pull out of active duty to go investigate UFO cases. He was basically like one of the Men in Black during the 40s and 50s and stuff, and ends up on the JFK assassination roll. And then later on, a couple of years later, he's caught bringing $100,000 out to some offices out in California for psychiatry work, right?
Just some psychiatry bribes.
Just some psychiatry bribes, or some under the cover payments and stuff for some. So where's the guy I'm trying to look for? It's not William J. Bryan. I thought it was William J. Bryan. Joseph Bryan, maybe. Oh, crap. William Joseph Bryan. Yeah, it's hard to find this guy, all right? But he was a CIA hypnotist who worked in an office out in California for a psychiatry office that was doing, among other things, what was suspected of being, creating actual CIA Manchurian candidates, people that they could program to carry out murders. And one of those people is alleged to have been Sirhan Sirhan, because he writes some interesting things when they found Sirhan Sirhan's journal, they found a bunch of stuff about DeSalvo written in the murder in his journal around the same time, and how he would have heard about DeSalvo, who hadn't been come out as like the Boston Strangler, right, till later. It's just kind of it's just a weird coincidence that he'd be writing about some of the same stuff, maybe overheard some stuff while he was being programmed by a CIA hypnotist at this office here. Yeah. And what's crazy is that the guy that they believe did shoot RFK in the pantry that night is a guy named Thane Eugene Caesar, who is a Lockheed Martin Skunk Works security guard.
Oh, God.
So this guy, I don't know if you'll find him on Wikipedia, but Thane Eugene Caesar, he died in the Philippines, out in Manila. They bought him a mansion out there and got him as far away from the U.S. to live out his older days as possible. But after he died, RFK Jr. came out and said, "This is the man that killed my father." He was a brand new security guard. His first day on the job, they were hired for extra security at the Ambassador Hotel that night. He was a Lockheed Martin Skunk Works security guard connected with all the guys that are the top suspects, like Joseph Joannides and the guys that were also fingered as being, accomplices there at the hotel that night. Gordon Campbell, George Joannides. By the way, the CIA files on George Joannides are still classified, which is crazy. But yeah, they said that this guy followed RFK into the pantry, and as soon as Sirhan started shooting randomly, you know, he shot Paul Stamp, what was the guy's name there that got shot in the face there, and then later said that Sirhan didn't kill Kennedy. There was another shot from behind that killed Kennedy because he survived. He got Sirhan just sitting there blasting with a 6-shooter pistol. They found 8 shots or 7 shots or something. So there was an extra gun and extra bullets that were never figured out, and basically like this security guard follows him into the pantry, and when Sirhan starts shooting, he pulls a gun and right up behind him and shoots him in the back of the head real quick, just real fast as the chaos is going down. And that's how they think the CIA did this assassination and conducted it. And RFK is convinced. He wants a new investigation into it. And of course, the person that was in charge of putting that investigation through and blocked it, you know who that was? In California?
No fucking way.
Yes.
What?
No fucking way. The vice president, huh? And go figure, Joe Biden, who is the president, was helping fund the 9/11 hijackers. That was a big thing that hasn't been talked about. But yeah, that's the criminals that are running the country currently.
America.
America. You guys, I know we're talking to a Brit and a Canuck. So
it's the same in Britain. They're all criminals too.
Yeah,
exactly.
I
think it's the Brits still running secretly. They definitely run Canada still, no doubt about that.
Yeah, they're warmongers. They don't give a crap about you or your family or your kids. They just want more money for war and more control. And they want to watch you through your cell phone and all times of the day and collect data on you, record all your phone conversations and keep a record of them. But guess what? You can't know what they're doing with your tax dollars. You're missing $30 trillion that's missing from that you paid for. And all these secret government programs with technologies and NASA, satellite feeds that they're you can't see the real satellite feeds. You get a censored version, that's made for children.
And the space operations like managed space systems, getting all the telemetry for NASA missions.
Yeah, let's open it up for questions, guys. All caps in the audience there. I will gladly read your questions.
And a couple super chats. Any of y'all looked into for NATO and Twin Towers? Wall Street Journal article, June 2001. Interesting. So that'd be pre 9/11.
Dude, this guy's trolling, man.
No, okay.
Jackie shot JFK under the chin on the Zapruder film, dude.
Yeah, no. Dude. We showed the film. It was the driver that shot him, right?
Yeah, it was William Greer, man, with the pistol over the. No, in the back. That was a big one too. I think it was not the storm drain. I'm pretty sure it was a sniper on the grassy knoll. Another team in the Daltex building, and another team that was up in the school book depository building. But I don't know if it was Oswald, man. He kind of hard to.
Two super chats. Second one saying Google Twin Towers for NATO Wall Street Journal. So,
but if you're going to kill a president, you want to make sure, don't you have more than one shooter?
Yeah, right. Definitely, there was definitely more than one, and I think Jackie was way too traumatized to have been involved. Like she was. But I know the real life Mulder. He says the cigarette smoking man was based on a real person. His name is Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Travis McClung. Right?
Richard Allen Miller. Who's that?
Dr. Richard Allen Miller. The real life cigarette smoking man.
I gotta go check. There's a Dark Journalist one that was on. That was back in 2018. I must have missed that one. Dr. Richard Allen Miller, physicist, author, polymath. Holy crap, huh? Is this guy really like Mr. Wizard, the real X-File? Oh yeah, this guy is him, huh?
Oh, I've seen him a couple of times actually.
I gotta go
Talk-
check this dude out, man. Oh, he's going into some weird stuff too, man. What is he got? Gobekli Temple, civilization. Yeah, Gobekli Tepe. Interesting, man. I gotta watch this, The Real X Files. I'll have to check this out, man. This is cool stuff. Thanks for bringing that one up. Yeah, let's get some questions going. Any reverse engineering tech info on those servers?
No, but my friend Matthew Bevan, who was done for who faced similar charges in 95, 96.
What's his name?
Matthew Bevan.
Matthew Bevan. And you guys are friends now because of this?
Yeah, it's only since being in a similar situation I've got in contact, yeah. And Bevan. And
Okay.
he claimed to have seen some free energy engine blueprints.
And where was that?
Oh man, where did he go?
Wasn't BAE, was it?
No, I think it was.
Marconi?
It might have been a national lab, like Alamos or something. I can't remember. But if you Google him, it's there's quite a few articles about him and where he went.
Right, and one thing you did verify, Gary, is the Building 8 in NASA at the JPL labs there, where the
GSC, Johnson Space Center.
And that's where it had always been rumored, and whistleblowers stating that's where NASA scrubs the photos and did all of the photo brushing back in the day of the images, and that you actually saw someone talk about it within the servers and then went into the server and into that building and verified it.
I read Donna Hare's account in the Disclosure Project book and then verified it, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that Disclosure Project book is full of nice specific info, so it was a good resource.
Yeah, and that the real X-Files guy there that we're looking up, Dr. Ram there, Rex at Leak Project has him on all the time, so I can actually ask him, and we can probably get him on and interview him as well. It'd be a fascinating episode for sure.
You got any questions? Yeah, let's.
I see. You still got the headphones in.
No, we're doing question. I can put it on.
Send me out a stream.
Welcome, Mike.
All right.
Going that way instead. It'll be easier on my
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna say it right now. All right, Michael wants to join and ask some questions.
Absolutely.
Nothing about magnetism, or I didn't see anything about free energy or anything like that. Just purely UFOs. I don't have anything, secret or held back that I haven't already reported.
Well, this would be the place to do it if you did, but
yeah.
But we appreciate you being here and your
appreciate
story and everything you have done, brother. Like
it's old news,
Absolutely.
but it's news to some, dude. There's a lot of people that never heard this stuff before, and a lot of people that haven't heard the other information that I just got into, like the deep,
Including me.
deep state stuff. Is pretty crazy when you get into it, Gary.
And thank you, Gary, for stating that the Solar Warden there was no mention of that, right? Like that was someone came up with, you said, on above top secret website. You yourself never seen it.
No. And also we have to be evidence based, and Solar Warden was a rumor started by an anonymous person on a forum. So what credence can you give it?
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying that. It's almost like they started a similar rumor to yours with disinfo in it to discredit what you found. That's what it sounds like. But because that's common. They do that. It's a false straw man. It's a kind of a straw man or bait and switch type tactic. A combination of both. But
for those maybe that the younger generation that might not have been around or did not know who you are, Gary, do you want to maybe just give like your 3 biggest aha moments or like things that you found while you were digging around in there?
Seeing the image, which Donna Hare described, that they airbrushed out satellite imagery, UFOs out of satellite imagery, and it was classic cigar shape. No rivets, no seams, none of the obvious clues to man-made construction. The one thing it did have that I could relate to human technology was those geodesic domes that you see in radar stations, the golf ball type domes. It had one above, one below, one facing me, and I assume one behind as well. So that was one big thing. The other was the spreadsheet of non-terrestrial officers, and also fleet-to-fleet transfers of exotic materials, or materiel as they called it in the document. They had like barium, strontium, titanate, and things that I now know are really good dielectrics, but I didn't know at the time. Big three things. There was only those two really. Yeah.
Oh, that was three. That was fleet to fleet, off or extraterrestrial fleet, and the cigar-shaped image of NASA scrubbing it. And what I find fascinating, and I've always wondered about, is like the submarines and cigar-shaped craft. And could submarine technology have been implemented into space technology potentially? And is that maybe why the Navy goes into the potential off-world?
I think from what I have learned since, projects are moved around to be operated on by authorities that you wouldn't necessarily associate with, just to obscure people's research, basically. So, the Navy would do things to do with space and the air, and the Army would do things to do with the sea. Like taking Byfield-Brown effects, for instance. The Army Research Laboratory did a lot of work on that. And that's obviously a propulsive air-based effect. And you wouldn't expect an Army laboratory to be looking at that because it's not aerospace.
Like,
I don't get that. What have you heard any disinformation related to his case?
Only the Solar Warden crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Oh, what's up, UFO Shane? Hey, thanks for joining us, man. Good to have you here, brother.
Shane.
I was looking forward to Michael Brown's questions. Michael, where'd you go? Always
Department of Energy,
great
electric. Yes, however, the universe is more acoustic energy than anything.
But in space, no one can hear you scream. How can it be acoustic?
Yeah, I know, huh? Anyways, yeah, let's. This is great, man, and good to have you on. For those of you who just tuned in, we just been talking to Gary McKinnon of the UK. He's the guy that hacked the DOD and NASA, almost got extradited for it. Couldn't use the internet for 10.5 years while he fought the courts, and now he, of course, can use the
can't
internet.
travel to this day. Can't even go into Europe, even. Or Ireland to your own father's funeral. Rest in peace.
Scotland, yeah.
Scotland, sorry.
Scotland. Oh, I'm Scottish. I have some Scottish blood in me, McLaughlin.
All right, my Celtic brother.
Yeah, go. They'll never take our freedom.
What does Gary believe the Tic Tacs are and who they belong to? Oh. Man, oh man. I'm very skeptical when it comes to stuff that comes from the government and TTSA and a lot of smoke and mirrors. And the congressional hearings, I'm glad that it gives the UFO topic a lot more publicity and brings it into the public eye.
Yeah.
But there's too many spooks and corporate bodies, and it's a huge web.
People have no idea the real stuff too. It's all like, it's so buried. We get Bob Lazar out there on the mainstream media, and I looked into his scientific background, his papers and stuff, and there's like nothing there. I'm like, we have all these like great scientists, and they were interviewing a lot of these old timers, and then they're dropping dead like a month later. We're getting history recorded and saved, stuff that would have been lost for generations through obscurity, and just people have no idea it exists. And Yeah,
Yeah.
we fight the censorship too, man, hard. But the reality of what and the realness of what we're doing here has been shining through.
Yeah.
Especially so Michael is our top scientist. We actually have a
Our
lab that
material scientist, a
Hey,
material
Michael.
man.
we're doing
Hey,
some
Gary.
research into a whole bunch of cool stuff. All the different claims, man. I started out here in July doing a bunch of geopolymers. Like there's people that believe the pyramids were made of like a stone that's constituted and made.
Oh yeah.
They probably aren't, but geopolymers
yeah.
are at least real.
But maybe some of the casing stones were when they
Yeah,
do
right. Like different parts of it.
analysis. There were,
Well,
there's
That's
also-
actually a
look at
good
those and
point,
inspect
Gary.
them
The
myself.
casing stones would have been the more technologically advanced. They're like purposed with like the dielectrics and stuff, the materials in it, and that they were the quartz as opposed to
Aren't
the
those
majority
mostly
of the
eroded
sandstone.
away?
mostly, yeah,
Oh.
but there's still some examples there. And also, there's a guy that walked around this camera, took some photos, and some of these the busts, the head statues that were broken. You saw that on the inside, there was just a column with some rough rock, and then the perfectly symmetrical facial features were on the outside, but it's hollow on the inside. I think there's a lot to be said for concrete being in use in some of these constructions of the pyramids. Not the sarcophagi underground, but some of the stonework.
Well, I'll take a look. I mean, at the very least, geopolymers are real.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you said barium strontium titanate. That's interesting. That can be used for some fun stuff. Let's see.
Yep, I'm trying to get hold of some at the moment. I could get barium titanate, but the strontium titanate's a bit more difficult. And I can only get it in powder form, so I'm going to have to like.
It's
then
much
mix
easier to
them.
make it. You can
Yeah.
use barium carbonate, and titanium dioxide doesn't melt until very high temperatures. But actually, no, it's doable. You'd need a heck of a furnace, but you can make it.
We'll have to swap emails, Michael, because I'm heading in that direction with my experiments.
Yeah, it's easy enough to make. You have titanium oxide's very unreactive, so maybe it's easier to go from titanium metal, and then you would probably add some organic ligands to the titanium, which you would then mix with the barium carbonate, and then you would oxidize that. Just
What kind of temperatures?
let's just thinking out loud. You'd probably have to hit at least 1200 Celsius.
Okay, well, that's doable.
Yeah, there's some muffle furnaces that can do that. Yeah, that should get you some at least nanoscale barium titanate. Making big crystals, you'd have to liquefy that probably. There might be ways to precipitate it from deep eutectic solvents using titanium tetrachloride and some electrochemistry, but that would be overkill. Yeah, just mix barium carbonate with I don't know, some sort of titanium with organic ligands.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I was looking into like robbing ultrasonic transducers of their barium titanate, but I'm not sure how economic that would be.
Yep, I mean, it's all feasible. Single crystals are better in performance, but harder to make. Have you seen calcium copper titanate? That's a really cool one.
Oh yeah, but that's a huge dielectric constant, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not actually piezoelectric, it's internal barrier layer capacitance. So there's regions in the crystal lattice that are conducting, and they're just really close together, but separated by regions in the material where it's insulating. So it's like having a perfect nanopowder suspended in a solid.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little while ago we were using CCTO bonded together with Rochelle salt. Rochelle salt has a reasonable dielectric constant, and then that bridges the gap between the CCTO, and then you don't have to sinter the CCTO. But I mean, the CCTO, you can sinter it easily enough, so you might as well just do that directly in the future.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gaining popularity. But yeah, the barium titanate's got some interesting properties. I know with optical stuff, you can get 4-wave mixing, which is excellent for photonic quantum computing and things like that. And beyond quantum computing, if closed time-like curve computing, supposedly.
4-wave mixing.
Well, yeah, Jeremy, show him the video of the barium titanate crystal that they use to make the phase conjugate mirror setup. So this you'll see this. If you have a crystal of barium titanate and you have high enough laser intensity, you can take an image and send it through frosted glass, and the crystal will calculate the way to send the photons back through the frosted glass such that the image is recovered. So it's just a single barium titanate crystal, and it's doing this very complicated, the phase conjugate mirror thing. You'll see.
When Patrick and I were playing around with this idea a while back, and I showed Jeremy this video for the first time, he immediately seen the significance of this. And watch really closely. As he moves it, you'll notice that the beam takes a moment. It takes almost a half a second or so before it actually recorrects itself, and then you see it accumulate on the inside. So it's genuinely changing the refractive index inside that crystal after it builds up. And the fact that it takes a period of time to resolve is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's thinking. It's thinking.
Yeah, how does it know?
Well, it's just the photorefractive effect, but to stabilize, basically, there's a steady state non-equilibrium material which has these exotic properties, which go like forward and backward in time and all these other things. Basically, as long as this thing is resonating, everything within that time cone from when it started resonating out to the speed of light, in theory, is accessible to it.
Yeah.
In practice, that's not what it's doing here. In principle, if you wanted to do time travel, like legit time travel, you would need a resonator structure like this that you can agree upon between two distant observers, and you can use that as a common thing to, like.
This is so juicy.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that's bleeding edge. But anyway.
Yeah.
So consider this for all you propulsion folks out there in the anti-gravity community. Just think about this. It took a period of time for the image to finally resolve, which means what? There's an energy accumulation or a stress energy density change inside that crystal. No one's ever checked a BATI-03 crystal for its mass during the time when it's actually doing this phase conjugation calculation. Because, of course, the TABI-03 is extremely expensive. You get one of these little crystals off eBay, you're paying $400 to $600 for that tiny little cube. So it's not a cheap experiment to do. But I seriously wonder with the high-resolution 5-digit under gram scale down to the 0.1 micrograms, I'll bet you that we'd see a weight change with that crystal.
Is that Jeremiah's, by the way?
That it is, sir.
Cool. Good to be here with you.
So in any case, I don't know if we would see a weight change in the barium titanate just when it's doing this particular calculation, but if it's pumped to a resonant state in general, that could be interesting. I know, generally speaking, second, third, and fourth order nonlinearities in these sorts of crystals will create squeezed vacuum states, which based on our models are equivalent to gravitons. Models similar to Professor Tejinder's work, where the graviton is a composite particle made of two photons, and that's why it can have spin 0 or spin 2. in principle, because it's a composite of 2 spin 1 particles.
Yeah.
No one thought the vacuum could have quasi-particles like normal matter does, but that may be the case. Yeah, I mean, it's an optical unification, just like on APEC the other day. That's kind of the way to go, because the matter particles, you can think of them as solitonic light, where as you increase the energy density in a region, the virtual particles become more prevalent, and they exist for longer periods of time. So you have time-energy uncertainty. So eventually, they've got a time cone from when they appear to when they disappear. So there's a future time cone and a past time cone that overlap, and they create this volume in space-time that's occupied by this virtual particle. Once these virtual particles start overlapping those volumes in space-time and they can start interacting, you get a nonlinearity that you add to electromagnetism, which precisely equals the weak force. And then, so what that's suggesting is that at high enough energy density, the vacuum undergoes a phase change and produces droplets of matter, and that they're photonic still, in a sense. But if they're photonic, then they're still affected by the local refractive index of space, which is set by these virtual particles to begin with. So the density, the frequency of the density of these virtual particles sets a refractive index, and we observe a constant speed of light because we just bend along with that refractive index.
Yeah.
Because we're made of particles. You can't make a detector out of particles that can sense that refractive index model, but that's anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. You can't use a ruler to measure the change in a ruler. That's the part of the problem. What makes it so difficult?
So
we have no direct matterless or direct space-time energy density meter that's not made of matter. So the problem with this is, as Todd says in his model, we're measuring rulers, and you can't use rulers to measure rulers.
Yeah, the old problem of the observer and the observed.
Right. Well, I mean, it's more like you need the uncertainty principle to even get relativity in the first place, because if you have two. The question is, okay, the Michelson-Morley experiment. You have a vacuum with no reference frame of its own, but it must still have material properties. It has mu and epsilon. So what would a material look like that has no reference frame of its own? It would have to be made of virtual particles. The uncertainty principle and these virtual particles allow for a material where the physical properties observed by two observers in different reference frames disagree precisely with general covariance. So the vacuum is a material where the uncertainty principle is required such that the different observers will see different apparent material properties from their perspectives.
Yeah, both are equally valid.
It's a new perspective on old physics.
Right, yeah. You guys are doing some very interesting work. Wow.
Yeah, there's actually a great video that kind of plays on this quite well, and it's got some of the best explanations I've seen. It's videos by Eugene, and it's called Einstein's Gravitoelectromagnetism, and shows the equivalence of different reference frames compared to different observers that unify the difference between what they perceive but still keep all the field forces the same, so that we see the exact same behavior, although we don't necessarily see them happening at the same time.
Okay. I'm going to have to watch this video, take some notes, and look up lots of stuff.
This is a fantastic video, and it's laid out really, I think, in layman's terms so that most anyone can understand it. I love everything on this person's channel. It's so good.
Cool, man.
Yeah, very, very simple explanations of physics with good graphics to demonstrate.
Yeah, to make it accessible.
Anyway, that's all on my end tonight. Do we have any more questions,
That was
Jeremy?
a lot. That was great, Michael.
No, man, this was awesome. I think we covered pretty much everything, and it was great to have you on, Gary.
No, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
I believe there's a couple questions I had up or starred there that we should ask first.
Yeah, that we didn't get that one. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember anything abnormal about them, so I assume they were, normal human names and American English names. Not that I can remember anything specifically. It was over
But it
20
wasn't
years.
like a bunch of Russians or a bunch of like XXX or something like that. No.
Yeah, nothing like that.
No Morks, no
No Mindies.
no Mindies.
Yeah.
I am curious how you pulled that video so fast. How did you load that quickly? You really typed that fast?
I am the master of finding stuff. I'm Jamie on like
Rogan.
yeah, I'm like Rogan's Jamie, but like way better. I don't know.
I'll have to
Or
rewatch that
for
because
it.
I could have swore that was like 4 seconds and you had it loaded.
It's in
That's what I do,
searches.
man. That's what I do. I find stuff. People talk about it. I find it, and I put it on blast. That's it.
What's this recent testimony of the Disclosure Project?
Yeah, Tom, if you're in there, maybe I think it might have been. Do you know
Donna
about
Hare.
Eric Hecker and his work? Because he's mentioned you a couple times that you're what he's found down there, potentially the off-world server. He believes in the neutrino detector or whatnot.
Yeah.
Could
I'm
link
not
to
sure.
it,
I'm not
but-
quite sure what I make of it. Why did he have such access? I know fire safety officer or whatever, you have to be able to go everywhere. But B, why would people, if you're involved in a project like that, you don't talk to people that don't ever need to know. You just don't. So it's kind of I find it hard to believe that people told him stuff he claimed
Yeah.
they did.
Yeah, so his story or his testimony goes that he was like a general like contractor guy down there, and then he was
plumber, right?
Yeah,
Are we talking
plumber.
about
But
Eric?
then I think he was an electrician when he went to the South Pole, or like his second 6-month stint, right? Because he was down there for 6 months, then took another job for another 6 months. And that his story with the New Zealand earthquake goes that he was like in this area, like just doing a job, and like the earthquake had happened or something. And like one of the guys just like came out distraught and was like, "Oh my God, I think we just did this." Like, was like a human moment of like grief that they had caused something so catastrophic. And like he was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, he's got this
Oh my
whole
God,
theory
so-
that it's they use basically it's these things can be repurposed as a transmitter or antenna for what's called scalar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, scalar interferometry. But what really kind of tripped me up, Jeremy,
Phased
you asked me
array.
a specific,
Sorry,
excellent
phased
question.
array.
You know, how much power would it really take to cause these kinds of effects to happen? And when we looked at the numbers, they're tremendous, which does mean, you know, it leaves a lot to be desired in terms of could they really genuinely generate that much transmission power? And it's a bit hard
The
to
amount
believe.
of power that they'd have to transmit in order to.
Yeah, I remain skeptical too, and I have friends who worked at Ice Cube, so I can ask them at some point. I keep forgetting though.
Yeah, and then like again, how much energy is lost as you if you were to beam this through the Earth, and then how
Yeah, but also we have to
One
say-
is able to travel better.
in the traditional way. They might have a novel means of generating power for doing shit like that.
So what gets me about it all is when I combine Dutch Synths and Eric Hecker and they met, and that Dutch had also captured these radar images of these like weird energy waves from Antarctica to Christchurch, New Zealand at that time. And he picked it up because he's an earthquake forecaster. And that's where he was like, the original earthquake energy amount that caused that Christchurch earthquake was an anomaly in his like energy dispersion system, which then had him look into other things, which then had him find the anomalies in the satellite radar images coming from Antarctica or whatever, shooting energy at it or something.
That's crazy. So if are there any other seismologists around the globe that are reporting this? Because that'd be great if we have other confirmation of this. Because just a lone nut conspiracy theorist, that's one thing. But if other seismologists are really confirming these things too, then that would be.
Dutch has a record of literally predicting every big earthquake of like a 5 to like 7 a week in advance. Like he's got about an 80% record of predicting it each week for the last 12 years. So it's like it's ridiculous how accurate it is. If you've been following him, it's like this. It needs to be investigated scientifically because he's onto something, right?
Does he have access to a network of seismic detectors? Or?
Oh yeah, he uses them all. Oh yeah, he uses the ESGS, the USGS, the Japanese ones, the Russian ones. He monitors all of them. And then he's had to stop because they shut him down because he was embarrassing them basically, and they cut all the info or the feeds to him and his internet and stuff over the last month, and he's just been losing it. It's prayers are with them, and hopefully they stop targeting him and let him get back to work, because there's little video clips of like Italians and like French from like years ago where they were sleeping in their cars overnight because he would project an earthquake, and he like saved their lives, and they went on to like CNN thanking him the next day, and then like CNN had to cut the footage. Like it's nuts.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I'll have to check him out and look deeper into him. I'm glad you brought that up.
And like that's why I'm trying to bring him together with you, Jeremy, because like you guys can speak the science. He's almost like
no
a
seismologist, but
it's kind of crazy. He's the seismologist doppelganger of you. It's
if you're going to do another interview with Hecker, I'd also be glad to be there, because I can bring in some of the technicals and some of the
we should get Hecker on with Dutch
yes,
and
working on
try
that.
to do a deep dive into this with some other. I want to see if Michael can get some people from Ice Cube down there to comment on this as well, and also we'll find someone. We'll find some other people. Maybe we'll run some calculations on this whole thing too to see.
Well, now that we have Mark in the chat too, let me just bring this back for a brief moment into what we were talking about earlier with barium titanium trioxide crystal and the phase conjugate mirror or four-way mixing. And so normally when we think about inertia or energy, we think about the linear motion or acceleration of a particle that has some comparison to the speed of light. And so we know that there's a mass energy equivalence. When you accelerate something, it takes energy to accelerate it. And so because it's moving in a different frame of reference than the stationary observer, that being us looking at something moving, or the equipment that we use to measure it, it's not going to respond the same. It's in a different inertial frame of reference. So its moment of inertia is different. But what we don't consider is that there are more ways to store up inertia than just simply a linear motion. And one of those techniques is spin precession. And so now that Mark's here, one of his big goals is to use the techniques of Elzaphan and dynamic nuclear orientation in order to add that spin precession and change the energy density in what we call the stress energy momentum tensor, so that we can reduce the inertia or decrease the gravitational mass, and we can control the inertial vector along a certain axis.
What, precession on the atomic?
So it's kind of a mouthful, but basically what it means is if you put energy into something in any form, whether it be light or whether it be heat or whether it be physical acceleration, even something like a flywheel, during the time when the change is happening, acceleration or deceleration or addition of spin in terms of precession or just simply spin flipping, you change the way it relates with the outside reference frame, the outside world. And that makes a huge difference in how it responds.
Yeah.
A simpler way to think of it is that subatomic particles are wobbling in many different directions simultaneously, and when you move them through space, their wobbles change. And that is where inertia is being stored. By orienting their wobbles, you're able to move it freely without any effects of inertia along the plane and axis of spin, which is why flying saucers can do a 90-degree turn at 10,000 miles an hour, but they can't do a barrel roll.
All right. Then we get into what Jeremy loves to talk about, which is coherent matter states. When all of the matter is completely synchronized.
This is coherent matter, yeah. It's the opposite of nuclear weapons and nuclear energy, where you're splitting the atom and trying to do stuff like violent things to it. We're trying to cool it down and orient it and make it coherent.
Right, yeah. I've got a lot to learn about physics. I've got a friend, she's got a degree in a master's in nuclear physics. I'm going to have to pick her brain.
Absolutely. Tell her to check some of this stuff out. You know, that's what we always like is the students out there that are showing this stuff to their professors and asking questions. And you guys are the next generation out there who are going to bring this forward, man. So.
Yeah,
Gary, ask
a
your
laundry
friend.
list of universities that have done this too. So
Gary, ask your friend, your physics friend, if she knows anything about dynamic nuclear orientation. Chances are she doesn't. I reached out to the head of the physics department of University of Albany, who actually specializes in electron paramagnetic resonance, which is the form of resonance that's required to get to dynamic nuclear orientation. He has heard of it. He never even read the book on it, and he never attempted to achieve it. And this is a tenured professor with multiple PhDs. He came down to the lab and asked how he can help out. And I asked him just read the textbook for me and find me, highlight things that are relevant. And that's what he did. And
this is way beyond MRI machines.
It's connected to MRI machines. So MRI is connecting with a resonance of the entire atom acting as a whole. Think of it sort of like the solar system. So the Earth has its own wobble, the moon has its own wobble, and then the planets going around the sun all together have even slower wobble. That would be MRI. And then as you go down in levels, then there's electron paramagnetic resonance, which is a higher level of orientation. And then the deepest level of orientation is dynamic nuclear orientation, where you're using the electron paramagnetic resonance via the Overhauser effect to orient subatomic particle spins.
And then, of course, there is one fantastic thing that goes even deeper than that, where instead of orienting the nuclei as a whole, we start to actually orient the dipole moment of every single subatomic particle in the nuclei. But this is something that we have not figured out how to do yet.
That's what dynamic nuclear orientation is. It's subatomic particle spin orientation.
Right, but it's the whole nuclei all at once.
No, it's not the whole nuclei all at once. It's the individual protons and neutrons. The whole nuclei at once is MRI.
Okay,
That's just an imaging technique.
Well, nuclear magnetic resonance is.
That's how it goes with me. I'm like, if Jamie could keep up with me, man, they'd have so many tabs open, and it'd be like, oh God, what do we got? Like this is just like each one of these is like a textbook that you have to give to a college professor, and it takes them a year to read.
Yeah, you're literally going through digital textbooks there.
Yeah, this is nuts. So you guys like go so fast, and I'm trying. And luckily, I know what half this stuff is, so it's easier for me to find. I couldn't imagine being like, Jamie being like, "What is this? I've never,
Jeremy, it's impressive.
How do you spell
this
that?
stuff so fast. I can't believe how quick you're pulling this stuff up. It's almost instant. It's like you're a freaking AI, man. Are you sure you're not?
Well, a lot of times I have it already open somewhere else, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I got that open over here. Let me just find it.
Search history.
It's like, dude, I have 300 tabs open right now. I don't know how I keep track of them all.
Browser crash.
That's it. Use the tab manager thing so you can get 3 rows too. You gotta.
Are you guys on for much longer? Can I go with your mic class?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I don't want to miss it.
I do. I have the plugin folder for Google Chrome, which gives me 3 rows of tabs too. Like I don't have it on this one. I got to get it set up again. But yeah, heck yes. This is again. Thank you so much, Gary. Any other questions for Gary before he goes and hits the road, man? We're just past 2 hours, and I don't want to keep this. I don't want to overwhelm people. We covered a lot of ground in this one podcast, man.
One epic show full of just so much knowledge. It's
yes, it's all about those search terms, dude. I used to have like a list of every morning I'd wake up and I search for these things because you search any news to do with Area 51, any news to do with Wright-Patterson, all the Air Force bases that are hot too, like, and then all the search terms for the technology words and buzzwords. Because if you want to find classified stuff, sometimes it appears and then disappears a day later. So you have
it gets scrubbed so fast.
You gotta grab it.
sponge the internet so quick. And as Anthony Williams was stating earlier, when you find something, you got to save it and then save it offline and have it archived, because otherwise it's gone. If it's real, it's gone.
Yeah, many of our friends have reported that files have disappeared off their computer within a day. They have a separate folder. They put just a few files in there. They know exactly what they're looking for, and they're not losing them. They come back the next day, wake up in the morning, the computer is restarted, and those files are gone.
Gone. Yep. I've had that happen a couple of times with my computer. To come in and it's like restarted, and it's like, where's all that stuff I was working on and all that stuff, and then it restarts all my browsers too, so I lose all the tabs. Yeah.
If you're gonna stick it on something too, use a flash drive, or no, I shouldn't say flash drive, but use an SD card. SD cards are the most robust in terms of electromagnetic interference resilience because they have the shortest traces. And traces are ultimately, those little copper wires that connect the microchip into the actual interface terminals that you plug in and that connect to your computer. Well, those are the shortest in micro SD cards. So if you wanted to store something and keep it safe, use a micro SD. It's the most resilient way to store something.
But because of those small traces, probably more prone to EMP attacks, I guess.
Right, no path link for little trace antennas along the board.
That's what I like to do. Bookmark all tabs. You go into your bookmark all tabs, and I try to do that every once in a while.
And then we don't reload though. We should finish off with Jeremy singing a song.
Let me just ask one question before Jeremy does, and I want to answer this to your whole audience. Does anybody out there watching this now have a copy of the Energy from the Vacuum series DVD set? The whole thing. If anybody's got that, I would love for you to contact us.
I've not got with Tom Bearden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not got all of them, but I've got a lot.
Oh man, dude, let's talk.
Yeah,
nice.
You can't get them anymore.
Hey, is it all right if I shoot Jeremiah your number, Gary, and get you guys in touch?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and Michael too, please. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, welcome to the team. Welcome to the club, brother. And it's awesome to have you on board and get you back on here, man. It's been a long journey, but we're here. You're not sitting in a prison cell. You're not extradited. You're kind of, stuck in the UK over there. But, if we can get you to space, man, then I don't think there's nothing banning you from going to space, right?
Are you still wanted in the US?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He'll get arrested if he comes to visit the lab. I asked him.
Or if he leaves, he can't leave the UK. He can't even go into Scotland, let alone the EU.
Yeah. Anywhere with a different judicial system, I can be re-extradited request. Yeah.
So what's this about a song, Jeremy? Now you got me interested.
No, that's not for today. I want to record it and release a video on it, man. It's something I'm working on.
Okay.
Not even a teaser.
People saw the first verse.
It's the best UFO song. I think it's a probes.
It's great. Yeah. I don't have a guitar or anything here, man, and I want to take the
Jeremy,
Gary's the star of the show, man. I can't come in and upstage him, man.
I want to hear it.
See,
you will, man. No, you will. You'll hear it, man. I got some good stuff. So,
yeah, I've heard one of your songs. It's cool. Good voice as well.
Right?
Thanks,
I know.
brother.
He's epic. We're gonna. Jeremy, you're already a star, but we're gonna make you a music star too. The disclosure UFO stuff. It's gonna.
Jeremy, I got the lyrics to some of the songs that you sang. Some of those you made up on the spot too.
A lot of them I do. Yeah, I'll do that. A lot.
You should make an album. You should do an album.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. You're too kind, man. I would probably not ever want to release it once I heard it myself. So it's like,
hey, it worked for Weird Al. It can work for you too.
That's it. I got some good ones.
My bad. I was distracted. What are we talking about now?
Making an album of UFO songs.
Parody album of
Oh, you should use some of the stuff from Ancient Astronauts and Azim. That's a good.
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna have. I wanted David Wilcock to play guitar, but I don't know if he actually does play one.
How about Tom DeLonge?
Tom DeLonge. There we go, man.
He's not witty Patsy, isn't he, DeLonge?
Come on,
I'll-
we got to get you on with Tom DeLonge.
No, dude. I'll
Cool,
jam with
good.
I'll tell Travis Barker. I know he can play drums for me, but Tom, no, we're good. I'm cool, dude. I want my spaceship.
Last questions in the audience.
Hey,
Gary,
Tom, you're a
how can
rock
people
star.
get a hold of you? Do you have Telegram? What's your YouTube
Fucking
channel?
rock star. Yeah, I'm on Telegram.
Get your game
Investors
on.
got played.
We
Not all that
will
glitters is
cox you.
gold. Only shooting stars. I forget the words to that one. That was a good one.
Somebody once told me Tom.
So the last thing I remember on this before I got a
the
call
only
was
superstar. out there that
Antarctic base thing,
cares.
Ice Cube. But
Yeah.
if you want to look at some real earthquake science, check out Eric Dollard's recent work. He's been doing some good stuff.
Oh, is he
Yeah.
still doing?
Is he still around? Huh? He's still kicking.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
I
Aaron
believe
and him
Eric
post
Dollard
videos
is
all
still
the
around.
time.
Yeah, he's been working on a device that measures telluric currents. So basically, when leading up to an earthquake, you have dielectrics which are stressed in the fault line. And as these are stressed, some of them are maybe piezoelectric or whatever, it builds up a voltage. And that as that voltage relaxes, as it gets discharged by whatever conductivity is in the dirt, it produces telluric currents. So you can predict, or at least you can track the structure of these fault lines and try to predict earthquakes by using the signals from these telluric currents. It's a very clever idea that Eric's working on there.
Right. Any plasma effects from the currents?
This is all electrolytes in stuff in water. You basically you have quartz or other crystals, and they're stressed. So if they're piezoelectric, they'll produce a voltage, and then whatever water, whatever ionically conductive material discharges that voltage, and that produces these currents.
Wow, so it's signal detecting in a unique way. That's
Yeah, in principle, you can make a predictive model of earthquakes based off of the signals from these telluric currents. It's very cool. I think the methods, the systems they're using are kind of crude, but I think if you plug it into some sort of predictive AI model on the back end and you make a lot of individual sensors over a large area, you should be able to do it.
right, yeah.
Eric's working with a handful of devices to prove out the concept, I guess, but yeah, very practical, very realistic, I would say.
That's good to know he's still working. I remember years ago he lost funding, went a bit hermit, but
Yeah, I think he's working with Aaron Murakami now on the West Coast.
oh yeah.
They've been got a good lab up and going over the last 5-6 years.
Oh yeah, man. Aaron kind of pulled him out of recess. He had been screwed so badly, Eric Dollard was, by the state of California that he pretty much gave up and said, "Screw you all, I'm done."
Yeah.
And then Eric comes out of nowhere. He's like, honestly, Eric, a lot of people really want to hear what you have to say, and we think that you're doing great work. So please come back. He's like, "Well, I have no means to do that." And Aaron's like, "Well, let's do a fundraiser then. Let's get you back in the scene." And they did. It succeeded extremely well because what Eric had to teach was a complete reformulation of the Heaviside Gibbs stuff and correct the Maxwell paradigms by changing from our really overcomplicated quaternions into a much more basic mathematical system that wasn't so generalized like the Heaviside Gibbs adaptation. And in that, he's now been able to demonstrate up to 3 days early prediction with earthquakes using the telluric current prediction.
Whoa.
Which is kind of nuts. And this was
Where
just what he
can I read his current work?
Say that again?
Where can I read his current work?
Oh, he's got videos up on YouTube, and he's got a few papers posted, I believe, too. I'm not sure where you find the papers, but you can find them all over YouTube and hear him talking about it, explain the whole system, and see the EPD laboratory stuff. So
Oh, fantastic.
it's all up there.
Wow.
Yeah, if anyone wants to jump into all this stuff in a way that is pretty low risk, Aaron and Eric need help transcribing a whole bunch of old books and things so that these notes aren't lost, getting it online and documented.
Okay.
Yeah, so anyone who's interested in doing archival work or helping out with that, getting, hooked, definitely reach out. And
I take it his handwriting doesn't lend itself well to optical character recognition now.
Probably
Yeah.
not. But I think they also have a lot of old files from RCA and all these old radio companies that were doing like Tesla transmission to submarines in the ocean using capacitive effects, all sorts of cool things.
Wow.
The cool thing about a scalar transmission is that it penetrates everything. So if you just have, say, a symmetrical terminal like a spherical terminal, and you apply a potential to it, if that potential is fast enough, you'll be able to easily measure it penetrate just about everything, including Faraday cages with multiple layers. It'll cut right through. Now, don't get it wrong, it doesn't cut right through with no attenuation. It is attenuated based on the energy density and the gradients that are formed based on how linear the beam path is. And we can't really make a truly perfect zero divergence beam of a pure electric field. Unless, of course, you want to count Eugene Polkanov's gravity impulse beam, which would have been exactly an example of that if it really was exactly what he says. But it'll cut right through a Faraday cage. Transverse waves, they're completely eaten up. But these fields will charge and pass the electric field straight through. And that means they can also penetrate the ground in the same manner.
One more question before we wrap up. Oh, sorry, I'll let you answer that. Sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, his transverse wave work was the last stuff I read. Did I see two faint plasma bubbles? No, I saw geodesic domes. So like golf ball domes. Like you see in
Like on the radars, like you stated, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Aaron Murakami, he was going to feature Thane Hines, heard of him? He had a really interesting, I did a small replication, delaying lens basically in an inductor. So you have the rise time of the opposing magnetic field as a magnet goes over the inductor. The formula is just time equals inductance divided by resistance. So he wound high inductance coils, and a bit like timing a car, he made it so that rather than the magnet being opposed when it came in, it tried to be dragged in as it left the coil past top dead center. He could actually time the pulse, so it pulled it in and pushed it out.
Yeah, that's called reactive power. So reactive power, and I mean in standard electromagnetic engineering of things, typically reactive power is not considered to be real power in the circuit. So when you have a phase angle of 90 degrees between the magnetic and electric fields in your signal that's traveling, then that's considered, or in the case of a circuit, you would have the current and the voltage, I guess. And when the current and the voltage are out of phase, there's real power. And when they're completely in phase, there's zero real power. No, or was it completely out of phase? Yeah. One of the two.
Yeah, other way around, exactly the opposite of that, right? So when they're in phase,
Right.
you have real power. When they're out of phase, it appears that you have real power. So if you have measured the amps and you measure the volts separately, you have that volt amps, which is not watts. Volt amps is not real power. That's reactive power.
Yeah. So if you shape the thing such that you have these volt amps, well, it's interesting because
Well, what was interesting?
for some circuits you can still use that for things, but
Yeah.
I mean so like volt amps, the thing is like when the voltage is the highest possible, the amperage is 0. So you have high volts, but you have no amps. And same way around, when you have all of the amps, your voltage is low, so your power tends towards 0. So like you need the current to be flowing at some high voltage to have a lot of power going through the circuit. If the current is just a little bit when the voltage is high, and then when the current is high, then there's very low voltage. There's not a lot of real power going through the circuit when that's happening. But
you know what we found out is locally, it actually turns out that our power companies will charge us if we have out of phase signals. So I had a bunch of light sources that were being capacitively driven with a series capacitor off the direct output line from the outlet, and they charge you extra for that because it screws up the dynamics of the phase angle.
It's called the P factor.
Right.
It's called the power
Yeah,
factor. They'll multiply your electric bill by that. And what I was getting to is, I think that's what Bill Alec was doing with his three-phase motor electromagnet thing, confusing watt meters into thinking that more wattage was being created. When in reality, it was just a scam.
a lot of free energy ideas end up being reactive power, and I don't know. In some of them might actually work, like the thing Jeremiah mentioned the other day. What was it? The Norman Wootan circuit. That
Yeah,
appears
he calls
to
it
be
the magnetic
converting-
resonance amplifier, the MRA, and it
Yeah,
couldn't be
that
simpler.
appears to be converting reactive power into real power, like DC power. So that's weird.
Well, what I found
and-
interesting about Thay's thing was that as he drove the inductor at higher frequencies, and it started to behave more like a capacitor, like storing more energy in the field.
Well,
on the
there's
bed.
a thing with high rise times. There's other things in the circuit design you have to consider with that. So, like, you want in some cases you want high parasitic capacitance to the environment. Other cases, not so much. One case I have really wanted to try but haven't gotten the chance to build yet is if you have a bipolar Tesla coil where one of the ends of the Tesla coil fully encloses the other end. So you have this, I call it the topological Tesla coil. You have a sphere on the outside and a sphere on the inside, and your resonance is just between those two. So in theory, the output of that object should be only near field and no far field radiation, or equivalently only scalar and not transverse.
I remember quite a while ago you told me about that, and I actually now have a battery-powered bipolar Tesla coil that it could be running. So
Yeah.
we
So
should try
the other details of that is, if we want to see gravitational effects with that, I suspect we will need to resonate it at an NMR resonance of at least one of the materials it's constructed out of. So we can go find NMR spectra. I don't know if you'd want an external field for that, or would the longitudinal field be sufficient?
If it was spherical, it'd be really, really hard to do NMR, because how are we?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That, right?
Well, so what you need some way of creating entanglement in that device. So if you produce if you produce squeezed states that are stuck on the near field surface of that object, that's, I think, where you would get into Alcubierre-Froning sort of stuff. Not Alcubierre, that's no longer considered to be the most accurate model, but you know what I mean.
So not leasing.
Yeah. To answer that question that just popped up, this would be a concentric spherical capacitor in just one iteration. I mean, you could use concentric boxes if you wanted to, or just about any two things where you have your circuitry on the inside box that's fully enclosed, consider it Faraday cage, and then you have a terminal coming out from that, which applies the opposite potential that's connected to the inside box to the outside box. And that could be spheres in the most ideal or omnidirectional space, but you could use just about any shape so long as one of the two potentials is completely enclosed inside the case of the other.
Right.
Well, not entirely, because if it's not spherically symmetric, there may be some small amount of far field or quadrupole emission.
Well, true, you'd have nodes, but just to look for the phenomena, you may end up developing interesting wave harmonics or other transmission shapes.
Yeah, and the thing I want to look for is superluminal transmissions, because if you have two of these capacitive surfaces next to each other, then if you were to put two photorefractive crystals on top of that, the electro-optic Kerr effect or Pockels effect cells. So if you have these electro-optic crystals on top, they'll change their refractive index accordingly to the electrostatic field on top of these two devices. If you have a driven device and a driving device, then if there's a finite propagation speed, like the speed of light, then you should be able to see on an oscilloscope a delay between, like if you have a photodiode and you have a laser going through this refractive crystal, and it changes its index of refraction, then it will change the beam path away from a photodiode. And then if you read the output of the two photodiodes, you should have a phase difference between them associated with the angle of the speed of propagation of these topological Tesla coils, or the longitudinal electrostatic, or I like to call it electrodynamic because it's dynamic, but the magnetic fields are canceled out. And in classical electromagnetism, that's just the near field, and there's no far field radiation from that. But in the Lenert equations and other electrodynamics, where you're allowing charge conservation to be slightly violated under certain circumstances, then this can produce a field that actually propagates. But anyway, point being, if you have these two objects, you can measure the wave speed of the front that's propagating here, and I suspect we'll see that there is no there is either a very high wave speed or no finite wave speed, or well, so according to Eric Dollard's experiments on that and a few other people at Boeing, I believe, the speed is highest when the two objects are close together, and as you move them apart, the speed goes down towards the speed of light. So like you'll have 50 times the speed of light if they're really close together, but if they're further apart, it goes down towards the speed of light. In principle, so the reason I think that's the case is possibly because if you have an electrostatic field, it's like an electromagnetic wave that takes zero energy to propagate, so it's always on. So as soon as you have an electrostatic charge, you're filling the whole time cone of that object with electrostatic field. That's why if you generate an electrostatic charge, or you find some electrostatic charge and you throw it in a black hole, the black hole becomes charged because it can't swallow the whole time cone of those charged particles. So an external observer will still see electrostatic charge on the black hole. So technically it's, but anyway, if you have this electrodynamic field, this near field, then standard models suggest that there's still a finite propagation speed. But in the real world, maybe this electrodynamic field, you're kind of piggybacking on the fact that the electrostatic field behaves superluminally in that circumstance.
Right. It
And
really
you're
depends on the
using that
observer
to
position,
get
too, in this case.
light.
The observer position is a critical factor here because you've got the information horizon. So effectively, from the point of transmission, if you were to just say apply a voltage or a potential to some single terminal, regardless of its shape, that field is going to propagate out at normal luminal speeds. But once it's established and it makes a connection, a change in that field, because the energy density is already there, appears, at least in terms of the near field, as if it's almost instantaneous. Say, at the far field, what we really see is a blue shift. So it looks like there's more energy there than there really is, in order to account for having a symmetrical distribution of space-time energy density, which is kind of how the universe likes to do things. We always want to see this symmetrical distribution, but it doesn't work the same when you're within the information horizon versus when you're outside of it.
Wow. Tonight I'm really learning how much I don't know.
Well, we don't know all that much either yet.
I got an easier question for you, Gary. This one comes from Tyler Zarodnik. He says if he wants to know if you ever sequestered any patents for alternative energy technologies from the USPTO or other agencies.
No, short answer.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There was another question, Gary, and I was also wondering this. Your thoughts on, have you seen the Ashton Forbes videos of the MH370 and these, what look like the UFOs going around the plane, and the interview that Jeremy's got coming up here on Friday with about those videos? Do you have any thoughts on them, or have you seen them?
No, I haven't. I haven't looked into MH370 much. I saw the documentary. And the one interesting thing was the lady, she an Asian lady, who claimed to have discovered some wreckage, and then she was kind of shut down. And of course, there was the flight path where it seemed to be going the opposite direction and then turned around. Definitely a mystery, but I don't know much about it at all.
So at the time, there was rumors of UFOs, which I thought was ridiculous, but now this might be the case. And
so the problem is, ever since the Tic Tac videos and Jack Safadi and I and all these other people started saying, like, well, if you had something like this, the real physical signatures would be cooling of the environment, blue shift instead of red shift as it's moving away, and vice versa. And the problem with listing out, and the lack of a sonic boom for supersonic flight, all of these details, I don't know if we should have shared that, because now we have this video and those things appear to be leaving a trail of cold behind them instead of a trail of hot air. So it suggests that they're flying cold. But something like this, you could easily make with an AI without too much difficulty these days. And unfortunately, now that all of the details for what this would physically look like are out there, you can't trust any more video of anything like this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish they had released this a couple years earlier. Then it would have been.
The thing is these two videos were leaked and have been on YouTube since 2004.
Oh, okay, there you go. If that's genuinely
Whoa,
true, then
that's
That
news to
can't
me.
be.
That's the genuine
Yeah,
truth. They've been on
that's very
since,
new to me.
sorry,
I mean,
2014.
2014 is when
2014, sorry, 2014 when it happened. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
before the other stuff then. So that's hopefully.
Not
okay.
2000.
I didn't know that part of it.
Provable date.
So if that's
Thanks,
true,
Enron.
then a lot more interesting.
They posted the video
But the
10
problem
years
is
before it
anything
happened.
new that we see. on the
Sorry,
web
yeah,
now-
2014, not 2004, my bad.
No, it's
Sorry,
all right.
what's that?
They posted the video 10 years before it happened. I said, sorry. I was joking around.
Wait, what?
But it was 2014, not 2004. Thanks for the correction, Enron. And apparently if the video has been up since then somewhere or something, I'd like to see that, because
Then it's
the
more
deep fake,
convincing.
the deep
'Cause how
fake
could they have
technology
faked
has
the
gotten
attack?
so good in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, how could they have faked the fact that it was if it were fake, how could they have faked the fact that there were cold trails instead of hot trails behind, like all these little details? That's potentially, if that was before the Tic Tac and all those things, that's really interesting actually.
Yeah,
That-
if somebody
that's what
did
gets
fake
me,
it, they would have
right?
had to really know what they were doing.
So that's what we're going to cover on Friday with
Yeah.
Ashton, and that in his interview on Leak Project with Rex, he states and shows that the videos came out on YouTube in 2014, literally 2 weeks after MH30 went missing, or 370, sorry.
Time traveling tricksters, indeed.
I suppose that could always be true.
Well, that's true too. We don't know what kind of deep fake technology other
Fair.
people had, years ago too. But it's
Or to
Yeah,
edit
fair.
and make it look older than it is that possible?
well, that they were developing the deep fake voice software back in like 2000, and they called up like the Pentagon with Colin Powell's voice and stuff, and did a whole deep fake on that. That's pretty incredible. I had no idea. It's like 23 years
Fair
ago.
points.
So
Well, I guess the most certain thing is if we can get our hands on something that works, or play around with some physical thing we can hold, that'll hold a lot more weight than any of these videos would.
yeah, definitely. Again, cool stuff. Lots of links open in my tabs now, your browsers. I hope we gave people lots of homework and things to study. I'm going to have to shut this down, man. We're 2.5 hours deep, man. I think we got to pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about and ask.
It's been cool, man. It's been really good, really interesting. I think probably more interesting for me than more interesting about me to your viewers.
Gary, we're going to get you back on as like a panelist just to come on and hang out with us and stuff,
Absolutely.
man.
Sure.
So-
Welcome back in
anytime.
time.
Well, I hope to have some asymmetric capacitor experiments.
We should
This is
talk
great.
about that.
Yeah, Gary's doing his own
We'll do a real
experiments.
science
Dude, Gary,
episode
let's
solely for that.
I have some advice for you on how to make that work.
Same.
Well, we'll get in contact. You'll get my number from Jeremy, and and I'll look up those. I think it's on my NAS drive. The Tom Bearden stuff.
Hey, should we after show this for the audience?
Absolutely,
There-
absolutely. For the
yeah,
members
might as well.
only.
Especially if anybody else would have any of the Energy from the Vacuum series. You too, Anthony, if you can drop on to, you sent me a link. I haven't checked it out to see if those videos are playable or if they're just references to the original site.
Yeah, I've got the original video.
Yeah, I definitely want to find out what you have and which ones you don't have so that I can end up getting all of them eventually.
Right, I'll get on.
I mean, I'll buy them right off you if you don't mind.
Yeah.
All right, I did that. I don't know how to do I don't know how to make a chat just for members only. I don't know.
I just say open it up to everybody, regardless of members only.
Yeah, I guess we'll do that. That's kind of
For this
not
time.
fair. So
Everyone's
Yeah, in this case.
There you go. There's a StreamYard link for everyone that wants to join. It's out there.
So Gary, did you know? I think Jeremiah showed me this the other day, but did you know that the T. Townsend Brown's family put up all his old notes on a website?
Yeah, I think what's the website called?
I forget. Jeremiah would know.
I've got
I will go ahead and see if I can find that before this ends.
Yeah, see if we can post that before this closes, and I'd like to. And then maybe you could do an outro, Bernie, for us with some music and some crazy pictures or something.
What is that anyway? Is that like an AI model that he made that does all that?
Yeah, he made it's like an
Nice.
AI video that it was one of those picture programs that like one thing warps into another. And
That's pretty cool.
I can't take credit for it though. Zerdis gave it to me, so it was Zerdis that made it.
Here we go. Got it. Okay, I'm going to
private chat.
See, I'll post this in the private chat, then you can pump this to the public chat for everybody. And so there it is. That's the official family website that they put up and tried to document everything that is there. It has more information than Rex Research, and it's better organized.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. The key is high divergence in the electric field and a high voltage overlapping with high voltage DC pulses. So you have a high voltage DC plus DC pulses on top of that.
Yeah, some of the most important stuff is, well, he's got two major categories. One, he's got self-electrically generating systems that when you short them out, instead become heaters. So he found a way to make bricks that would self-heat if you just simply shorted them out by electrically polarizing certain cements and clays that were mixed together and having a very high current pass through them during that time to repolarize the crystalline lattice. And then also you've got all of his notes on the gravitational versus inertial isotopes and his ways to both separate and isolate out those odd nucleons, odd nucleon materials, and separate the isotopes and cram them into something he called a lofting cake, which is kind of the heart of a UFO. It's in fact the last thing that he did right before everything went dark and he showed the Navy Admiral his double saucer system. So this is really juicy stuff, and it's finally out there.
Yeah.
Well, I did an audience poll, Gary. I asked them how many people here. We got a lot of skeptics who watch this show. I asked them, how many people believe Gary McKinnon? Guess what? 94% say yes.
Hey.
Wow.
Wow. That might be a new
amazing.
record.
That's
Well, I
pretty
mean,
cool,
when the
man.
government goes after you, they kind of like demonstrate that there was something to hide.
It's obviously it's something real there when the government goes after you. So yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. Oh, that's a bunch of junk. The alien, the Victor from
Air Force One. What are we looking at?
All right, guys, let's play us out and
much love. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Hang around for the intro, and then we'll start talking privately afterwards.
Yes,
That was
jump.
in the Amazon warehouse.